Chapter 1390. Other than being my apprentice, Xiao Yao is also the boss of our team. Lin Yin suppressed her heartache and stopped talking about compensation. She then introduced Xiao Yao to the others. These are my apprentices too. Lang Mang, King, Butcher, and Sun Xuan. Yun Xin, you don't need me to introduce you. Mi Shou is my grand disciple. Xiao Yao nodded and greeted them. I've heard a lot about you. Lin Yin noticed Xiao Yao's composure and suddenly felt that something was amiss. Hold on. Boss, did you already know? Although Xiao Yao's driving skills were lousy, he was well versed in the racing industry. He must have known Lang Mang and the others. However, Xiao Yao didn't seem surprised when he found out that they were her apprentices. Xiao Yao replied calmly, I just found out. Lin Yin was speechless. Did this guy think that she was a fool? She had a feeling that Xiao Yao might know more than she had imagined. Master, are you sure you're not hiding anything from me? Don't be a mistress again. Sun Xuan squeezed in front of Lin Yin and complained tearfully. Lin Yin hastily quipped, What mistress? That's all. I really have nothing to hide from you this time. Just trust me. Sun Xuan was skeptical, but he reluctantly accepted Lin Yan's assurance. Fifth junior brother Yun Xian was indeed talented, while sixth junior brother Boss Xiao had relied on money to get to his current position. Other than these two reasons, there shouldn't be any other reason for Master to make an exception and accept him as an apprentice. Sun Xuan looked aggrieved. All right, Master. I'll trust you one more time. Don't break my heart again. Butcher patted his chest. I trust you, Master. Lang Mang replied, I trust you too. King glanced at the three of them and chose to remain silent. Sun Xuan immediately tried to stir up trouble. Second brother, why aren't you saying anything? Don't you trust Master? King raised an eyebrow and glanced behind them. I want to believe you. Second brother, what do you mean? Why are you speaking so strangely? Are you? Sun Xuan glanced in King's direction. In the end, before he could finish his sentence, his eyes widened and he stood rooted to the ground. A low-key black family car was parked outside the track, and an extremely handsome man got out of the car. The man was wearing a very comfortable casual outfit and a pair of glasses on his face, looking gentle and harmless. He stood next to the car in the night, his eyes focused on the driver. Beside the man was a little boy who looked to be about 5 or 6 years old. The little boy was like a porcelain doll and he was also staring at his master. Sun Xuan looked at the two of them, then at his master. His heart ached as he clutched his chest. Master. Master, you just swore that there were no mistresses. In the end, in the next second, little 3 and little 4 appeared in front of him. But wasn't this Xiao Si a little too young? How could such a young child be taught to drive? Lin Yin hadn't expected that Pei Yuqing and Xiao Li would be here. She was stunned and couldn't react for a moment. Butcher and Lang Mang soon discovered the existence of this big and small creature. Butcher was stunned as well. He instinctively glanced at the two of them and asked, Master, are these two? 7th junior and 8th junior? Lang Mang quipped, Isn't 8th junior too young? End of this chapter. Chapter 1391. King shrugged. Boss, you don't understand. When you teach a disciple, you have to start from a baby. King narrowed his eyes as he studied the man before him. He stroked his chin and said, It seems like 7th junior has relied on his looks to get his position. Lin Yin glared at King and the rest. Shut up. She finally snapped back to her senses and scurried over to Pei Yuqing and Xiao Li. Why are you guys here? Pei Yuqing glanced at his son. Xiao Li was worried about you, so I brought him here. Pei Li stared at his father in shock. He had been waiting for his mother obediently. He hadn't wanted to cause any trouble for his mother. Wasn't he the one who had pretended to be calm the whole night and finally stood up from the sofa and ran out the door? She had instructed him to follow her if he wanted to see his mother. Then he had gotten into the car. I'm sorry, baby. I was held up and forgot to inform you. Lin Yin apologized hastily and hugged the little fellow. Pei Li had wanted to retort, but when he heard her call him darling, all his unhappiness vanished. He had finally seen his mother and was in her arms. He would cooperate with him for now. Sun Xuan, who had been ignored, wailed loudly. Master, aren't you going to give me an explanation? You lied to me again. Didn't you say that there are no mistresses? What are they? Wait a minute. Was he imagining things? Why did he feel that 7th junior brother and 8th junior brother's expressions were so similar? They seemed to be made from the same mold. Lin Yan's face darkened. What mistress? What nonsense are you spouting? Sun Xuan was devastated. Aren't these two your new disciples? Butcher replied, They aren't 7th junior and 8th junior? Lin Yin coughed softly and held his hand. I told you that I only have 2 new disciples. This isn't 7th Junior. Is my boyfriend. Sun Xuan, Butcher, Lang Mang and King were shocked. Boyfriend? The 4 of them were even more shocked when they heard Lin Yan's reply. Sun Xuan was dumbfounded. So, this isn't my junior brother but my martial father? Lang Mang said, Lao Si, your Chinese is too bad. You should call him Grandmaster. Butcher, Grandmaster? King, hi Grandmaster. Lin Yin shot them a warning glance and told them not to talk nonsense. Then she introduced them to Pei Yuqing. They are my disciples when I was overseas. Pei Yuqing, who hadn't expected Lin Yin to introduce herself to them, looked surprised. Previously, she had wanted nothing more than to completely isolate herself and the people around her from him, for fear that they would have anything to do with him. Pei Yuqing regained his composure and greeted them. Thank you for taking care of Xiaoyan overseas. Pei Li looked even more shocked than Pei Yuqing. What shocked him was that his father's reaction was so calm when he saw that his mother was surrounded by so many members of the opposite sex, and all of them seemed to be close to her. When he suddenly went out in the middle of the night, his expression was terrifying. He thought it would be the same as before. Oh, martial father. Oh no, Grandmaster. Grandmaster. You're too kind. Sun Xuan, who hadn't recovered from the shock, whispered into Lin Yan's ear, No way. Master, you really have a boyfriend? I thought you didn't like men? End of this chapter. Chapter 1392. Lin Yin rolled her eyes at him. Who said that I'm not interested in men? I just have high standards. The corners of Pei Yuqing's mouth curled up imperceptibly. His tense back relaxed completely. He had never dared to hope that she would acknowledge his identity in front of someone close to her. Sun Xuan fell silent as he studied the man's face. He was at a loss for words. His master seemed to have high standards. This man's appearance was simply too outstanding. Although the car he drove and the clothes he wore were quite low-key, the aura around his body could not be concealed no matter what. Hold on, master. There's another one. The older one is Grandmaster. What about the younger one? Sun Xuan finally recalled that there was a younger one. King's eyes darted from Pei Li to Lin Yin and Pei Yuqing. Are you blind? This child has all the good qualities of master and grandmaster. Who else could he be? Sun Xuan, who was dumbfounded by King's words, scrutinized the boy carefully. The more he scrutinized him, the more he realized that the boy's demeanor was identical to Grandmaster's. There was also his master's shadow between his brows. Sun Xuan was enlightened. Master, it's bad enough that you hid your boyfriend from us, but you didn't even tell us that your son is already so big. Lin Yin was dumbfounded by Sun Xuan's words. Are you blind? How could he be my son? Sun Xuan, who had been called blind, felt aggrieved. He took a few more glances at the boy. I'm not blind. This child looks exactly like you and Grandmaster. Anyone with eyes can tell. Butcher and Lang Mang realized something as well when they heard Sun Xuan's words. Butcher replied, Yes. His nose is like Grandmaster's. Lang Mang added, His eyes are like Master's. Michaud added, His mouth is like Master's and his aura is like Grandmaster's. As for Yun Xin, he knew that he was the son of Boss Zhao's friend. He had asked Lin Yin to take care of him, but he had also thought that way. Lin Yin was speechless. Xiaoli is already 5 years old. If I had given birth to him, would I have given birth 5 years ago? Can you guys use your brains? King mused, It's not impossible. Back then, Master, you disappeared for a few months, saying that you went for a closed-door special training. Now that I think about it, Lin Yin noticed that the kids were getting more and more ridiculous. She grabbed Xiao Yao, who was watching the commotion. Hey Xiao Yao, explain Xiaoli's identity. Sun Xuan was stunned. Why are you asking 6th junior brother to explain? Don't tell me. Don't tell me this child isn't yours and Grandmaster's, but 6th junior brother and you? A second later, Sun Xuan shrieked as Lin Yin kicked him. I was wrong, Master. Lin Yin was afraid that Xiaoli would be upset, so she stroked the little fellow's head. Xiaoli, don't be angry. They are just spouting nonsense. Hearing this, the little fellow's expression seemed to become even more gloomy. They weren't lying. Mommy, I'm your baby. Xiao Yao finally stepped forward. He glanced at Pei Yuqing and said, Senior brothers, you've misunderstood. This is my friend's son. My parents aren't around, so I asked Master to take care of him. Is that so? Sun Xuan glanced at the child in disbelief. However, it was even more impossible that Master had given birth 5 years ago. End of this chapter. Chapter 1393. What if Xiaoli is really our son? Lin Yin was speechless. Lin Yin was dumbfounded by his question. Pei Li also lifted his head to look at the man in shock, his eyes filled with disbelief. Was he crazy? At the same time, the little fellow's eyes were filled with anticipation. He was also nervous. What if he was really his mother's son? How would his mother answer? Would she hate him, fear him, or reject him? He couldn't even accept his mother's expression. He didn't dare to look or listen. The little fellow's face was as white as a sheet. His hands were clenched into fists, as though he couldn't suppress the energy around him. Lin Yin chuckled softly as she stroked the little fellow's soft cheeks. If Xiaoli is really our son, I would be smiling even in my dreams. The moment Lin Yin spoke, Pei Li's eyes lit up like a sunflower. Is that so? Pei Yuqing's eyes were unfathomable as he muttered softly. The chaotic gathering had finally ended. Lin Yin gestured for everyone to return to their homes. No way, master. We are only halfway through the competition. Sun Xuan looked reluctant. Lin Yin looked disdainful. It's already so late. Why are we still competing? You guys are single, but I'm not like you. The singles, Lang Mang, King, Butcher, Sun Xuan, Yun Xian, and Michaud were speechless. Bye-bye. If you want to compete, I'll see you at the competition venue. Lin Yin chased them away mercilessly. Just as she was about to leave, King suddenly called out to her. Sir, can I talk to you? Why would you want to talk to me? What do you want to talk to me about? Sun Xuan squeezed through the crowd. King shoved Sun Xuan away and pulled Lin Yin aside. What is it? Why are you acting so secretive? Lin Yin frowned. King looked helpless. Master, I suggest that you investigate this child's identity. Lin Yin was puzzled. Are you talking about Xiaoli? What is there to investigate? King was rendered speechless by Lin Yan's carefree attitude. Don't you have any doubts? Perhaps this child really is the son of Yuan Grandmaster. Lin Yin rolled her eyes at him. I gave birth to him. How could I not know? King pinched his forehead and reminded him, Master, do you remember that car accident? I remember that after the car accident, your memory wasn't complete. That's impossible. Forget about other things, how could I forget such an important thing? Don't I remember all of you clearly? Don't let your imagination run wild. Lin Yin sounded resolute. King raised his eyebrows. I'm not overthinking things. Master, I advise you to think about it carefully and see if you've ever abandoned her. Lin Yin stammered, He abandoned me, this brat. Can't you hope for something good from me? Cloud Manor. Although Lin Yin didn't take King's words to heart, she couldn't help but recall how he had said that he would abandon her after using her. In the end, she couldn't help but call him to the living room. What's wrong? Pei Yuqing asked when he noticed that the girl seemed troubled. Lin Yin scratched her head and probed, Well, nothing much. I just wanted to ask. Did we know each other? End of this chapter. Chapter 1394. Pei Yuqing's dark eyes were filled with emotions that Lin Yin couldn't understand. After some time the man replied, I do. However, you didn't know that I was the consciousness that possessed you. Lin Yin shook her head. I'm not talking about that. I mean, earlier. 5 years ago. 6 years ago. Did you know me? Pei Yuqing's eyes flickered. Why do you ask? Of course he knew her. However, in a sense, Lin Yin didn't know him anymore. At the time, she had forgotten about the Mu family, the Holy Ground, and everything about them. She had only known Pei Yuqing's identity, not him. Lin Yin replied, Answer me first. For some reason she was very concerned about this question. Pei Yuqing stared at the girl in front of him. I knew you. Lin Yin was startled for a few seconds. You knew me? I mean 5 or 6 years ago. Did you know me that early? Pei Yuqing's glasses hid the complicated expression in his eyes. Perhaps I fell in love with you earlier than you think. Lin Yin was speechless. Pei Yuqing replied, From the first time I saw you, I was infatuated with you. I couldn't stop thinking about you. Lin Yin was speechless. Pei Yuqing replied, People who say that the spring breeze is warm must have never seen your smile. People who say that sweets are sweet must have never heard your voice. You're like a fairy from heaven. Even looking at you is a blessing. Lin Yin was speechless. Who would believe him? Did he really think that they knew each other? Wasn't this what she had said to Pei Yuqing when she had been flattering him? Lin Yin glared at Pei Yuqing. Hey, are you kidding me again? Why did you copy my words? He had actually remembered every word she had said. Lin Yan's cheeks heated up as she felt an inexplicable sense of shame. Pei Yuqing chuckled softly. I'm just telling the truth. Lin Yin finally understood that he was teasing her. She heaved a sigh of relief and muttered to herself, Anyway, I didn't abandon you after I slept with you. Pei Yuqing raised an eyebrow when he heard the girl's muttering. Abandon? Lin Yin coughed softly and replied awkwardly, ahem. It's all because of what you said today. I started to wonder if I had abandoned you. I even forgot that I had a child. Lin Yin patted her chest with lingering fear. I knew it. How could I abandon my husband and son? Pei Yuqing was speechless. Lin Yin finally fell asleep peacefully. In the quiet courtyard, the father and son stood facing each other. The atmosphere was so tense that even the air around them seemed to be distorted. Why did you say those things to Mom today? Pei Li stood in front of the man with a cold face. Since his mother had already forgotten all those sad things in the past, there was no need to remind her again. It was fine as long as she was happy now. He thought this should be the consensus between them. Moreover, he had vaguely discovered that there was an extremely powerful and dangerous force that had been searching for his mother all these years. His mother would be safe if she knew nothing. Pei Yuqing seemed to have read his son's mind. Sometimes not knowing anything doesn't mean that you will be safe. Whether it's you or me, we can't guarantee that we can protect her at all times. Besides, even if he wanted to hide it, he wouldn't be able to do so. End of this chapter. Chapter 1395. In the private room of the bar, Qi Xiaoyuan's left cheek was plastered with polar light and Lin Yan's on his right cheek. He was waving a glow stick in his hand, which had Lin Yan Waiwadis on it. He was wearing a t-shirt with Lin Yan's picture on it, and there was a bunch of banners, cards and flyers in front of him. He waved the glow stick excitedly as he urged the people in the room. She's indeed my goddess. She's really amazing. Give me the money, give me the money. I told you that my goddess would win. Why didn't you believe me? Those who had bet with Qi Xiaoyuan on Misho had no choice but to accept their loss and transfer the money to Qi Xiaoyuan. You rascal. You're really lucky. Exactly. Who would have thought that the female racer would come in first again? She's really lucky. Qi Xiaoyuan glared at the person who had spoken. What kind of luck is that? Don't you know how to talk? That's her ability. You've been racing for years. How can you be so blind? Ahem. That woman is indeed pretty good. I just didn't expect her to beat Misho. Qi Xiaoyuan was satisfied when he heard that. That's not just an ordinary level of strength. How about it? Come to my wall. I bet that my goddess will definitely be the queen of the final competition. Young Master Qi, isn't your wall the same as Wei Shufeng's? Why did it change so quickly? Asked one of the men. Qi Xiaoyuan, who seemed to have recalled something, dashed to a corner to look for Wei Shufeng. Hey Wei Shufeng, are you trying to cheat? Where's the item I wanted? Wei Shufeng, who was already frustrated, clenched his fists tightly when he saw Qi Xiaoyuan. In the first bet, he had lost an autographed photo of his boss. This time, he had lost a limited edition autographed hat to Qi Xiaoyuan. His heart ached so much that he wished he could kill Qi Xiaoyuan to silence him. He had fallen into Qi Xiaoyuan's trap. He couldn't stand the sight of the traitor's smug expression, so he had made an impulsive bet with Qi Xiaoyuan. Who would have thought that Lin Yan would clinch the first place despite the intense competition? He had even lost his precious autographed hat to Qi Xiaoyuan. What's the hurry? It's at home, I'll bring it to you next time. Do you think I can deny you anything? Wei Shufeng snapped. Wei Shufeng was infuriated by Qi Xiaoyuan's reaction. You have already climbed over the wall. Why do you still need boss's things? Qi Xiaoyuan raised his voice. So what if I climbed over the wall? Even if I did, my love for boss will never change. Wei Shufeng replied, hypocrite, scumbag. Qi Xiaoyuan was exasperated. I'm a hypocrite. I'm a jerk. It's already the second level of the Global League and you still haven't recognized the boss? You still have the nerve to call me trash? The big screen in the room was playing the race live. The scene of Lin Yan overtaking the car and crossing the finish line was replayed repeatedly. The director and the fans' cheers were so loud that they almost pierced the clouds. Actually, what infuriated Wei Shufeng even more was that he realized that he couldn't tear his eyes away from Lin Yan. No. He would never allow himself to have a change of heart for boss. Qi Xiaoyuan seemed to have discovered his conscience. After all, he had kept Wei Shufeng in the dark for so long. He had even cheated him of 2 limited edition autographs. Thus, he coughed softly and said, "Oh yeah, since we've been brothers for so many years, I'll give you some insider news." What insider news? Wei Shufeng asked absent-mindedly. Qi Xiaoyuan replied mysteriously, "You should be able to see boss soon." End of the chapter. Chapter 1396. Wei Shufeng spun around and glared at Qi Xiaoyuan. He grabbed his collar. What did you say? Say it again. Qi Xiaoyuan coughed violently. Let go, let go. Calm down. I said that you will be able to see boss soon. She will probably be participating in the competition. Wei Shufeng looked as though he couldn't believe his ears. Boss will be participating in the competition? Are you sure? Qi Xiaoyuan didn't want to reveal too much, so he replied ambiguously, I only heard some news. I'm not sure if it's accurate. Boss had only asked him not to reveal her identity, but he hadn't. He had only told Wei Shufeng that she would be participating in the competition. Anyway, boss would definitely be able to enter the competition. There was nothing wrong with what he said. I only told you. Don't spread the news, Qi Xiaoyuan reminded him. Wei Shufeng nodded. He knew Qi Xiaoyuan's identity. He was the son of the president of the country's racing union. Hence, the news he had received was probably true. Boss, would she really be participating in the competition? Late at night, in the conference room of the first level of the international competition, the person in charge of the first level of the international competition had a stack of documents in front of him. He slammed the table angrily. Shameless. This is too shameless. Old Lu, what exactly happened? Why did you call us here so late at night? Asked the vice president of the country's racing union. President Qi consoled him. This is a critical period. Let's solve it together. The person in charge slammed the documents on the table angrily. It's all because of those foreign teams. Did you know? The WZ team actually applied to let Lang Mang, King, and Butcher participate in the first level of the international competition. These people were all participants of the Tournament of the Pinnacle, yet they insisted on squeezing them into the first division to snatch a spot. Wasn't this too shameless? I made an exception when they asked Sun Xuan to participate in the first level of the international competition. Now, even the three of them want to participate in the first level of the international competition. They're trying to go against us, the Chinese team. It wasn't easy for us to produce a few good seedlings this year. Originally, we had a good chance of making it to the tournament of the best. If Lang Mang, King, and Butcher were to participate in the first division, they might even take the top 3 spots. The person in charge had been angry for a long time. Now he started to complain incessantly. When the other higher-ups of the organizers heard this, they were furious. That's really shameless. Which contestant from the Tournament of the Pinnacle would participate in the first division? That's right. How could they do such a thing? If you ask me, Sun Xuan shouldn't have opened his mouth in the first place. Now they think that China is a pushover and want a foot after being given an inch. That's right. We should eliminate Sun Xuan as well. We can't make an exception. Listening to the indignant discussion of the organizers, the vice president and President Qi looked at each other with indescribable expressions. In order to avoid complications, only a few people in the country knew that Lin Yan was Yeva. Even the organizers weren't aware. Therefore, the organizers thought that the WZ team was shamelessly provoking Hua Nation. Little did they know that Yeva's apprentices were vying for Yeva's favor. They were forcing the WZ team to apply for a spot in the first level so that they could compete with their master. Fortunately, they had received a call from Lin Yan. The boss had explained the situation to them and told them to ignore Lang Mang and the others. End of chapter. Chapter 1397. This is indeed a little too much. WZ is a veteran team after all. How could they do such a thing? All these years, the competition has always been dominated by foreign teams. The Chinese teams haven't even been able to enter. How could they not be arrogant? Some time ago, they directly challenged us on our turf, causing our country's racing circle to lose face. This time we can't continue to compromise no matter what. Listening to the angry discussions of the higher-ups, President Qi came out to smooth things over. Old Lu, don't be too angry. Just send an email to reject them. This time the competition is in China and we are the organizers. We still have this bit of authority. Besides, what they did was against the rules. The person in charge calmed down and told President Qi earnestly, President Qi, you're right. This time our country has produced a good seedling. Although we don't expect her to enter the competition, we have to do our best to pave the way for her and groom her well. The person in charge was on the verge of tears. Although Thunderous Sound Racing and Lightspeed Racing had been supporting them all these years, they hadn't produced any newcomers in a long time. Who would have thought that Lin Yan would appear out of nowhere? It hadn't been easy for the Chinese country to produce such a good seedling. She had even clinched the third and second level of the international competition. He was afraid that she would melt in his mouth and fall in his hands. Hence, he couldn't allow those foreign teams to mess around. President Qi didn't know how to reply to the person in charge when he said that he had to groom and protect Lin Yan. He could only nod and smile ambiguously. That's right, we have to protect her. All right, then it's settled. Apart from that, I have something else to remind everyone of. The first level of the international competition is just around the corner, and everyone knows how important this competition is. This competition will determine the number of spots in the summit race, and whether or not the Chinese teams will have the opportunity to enter the summit race this year. Recently, our team has been frequently challenged by foreign teams. I'm sure you all know that this has caused a terrible impact and seriously affected our team's performance. Hence, I have to trouble all the racers to go back and tell them not to challenge them privately. But some of the foreign racers are really arrogant and difficult to deal with. Their words are extremely unpleasant. Many of our racers only agreed to the race because they couldn't take it anymore. Yeah, especially that Michelle Simon from the Falcon team. She's a lunatic. Every time she wins a challenge, she would spout nonsense and insult us on the internet, forcing a few of our racers to lose their minds and withdraw from the competition. Vice President Lee suggested, then let's unanimously announce to the public that we're training in a closed-door manner and cut off all communication channels. We must let them focus on preparing for the competition. The manager nodded eagerly. Oh yeah, you have to protect Lin Yan. She's a girl after all, so she's easily affected. I can't let this affect my performance in the competition. The two guild leaders looked at each other in silence as they listened to the person in charge of the competition. President Chi coughed lightly. Ahem, don't worry about that. This will definitely not happen. Yeva's mental fortitude and dominance were unparalleled in the racing industry. End of chapter. Chapter 1398. Yeva's mental fortitude and dominance were unparalleled in the racing industry. The best example was when she had led the WZ team to defeat the GD team, which had dominated the racing industry. Yeva's performance had been godlike. That had been an unprecedented test of her mental fortitude and driving skills. Hence, there was no such thing as a mental breakdown. In fact, there were many racers who had been forced to do so by her. The next day, the racetrack's Grim Reaper, who was unparalleled in terms of mental fortitude and driving skills, was in a state of mental breakdown. The competition was just around the corner, so she was supposed to be training. However, due to her apprentice's dangerous behavior last night, she decided that she had to take some time out to solve this problem. After all, it was a matter of life and death. Of course, she wouldn't be training at the racetrack. She had just realized last night that this fellow had no sense of direction. He probably didn't even know the basics of traffic. Hence, Lin Yan found a place with fewer cars and started driving with Xiao Yao. She started from the basic traffic rules. Kill him. Kill him. I'm talking about the direction. I'm not asking you to get out of the car and hit someone. Braking. Do you have a mine at home? Aren't you afraid of hitting someone? Alright, you do have a mine at home. Even if you do, you can't drive like this. You didn't turn red, yellow, or green. What's wrong? Is there no color that you like? Big brother, tell me the truth. How much did you spend on your license? Lin Yan's screams echoed throughout the entire journey. She swore that none of the apprentices she had taught in her life had made her want to die. Too easy. I like racing. Xiao Yao clutched the steering wheel and frowned. He seemed displeased. Lin Yan was speechless. Haha. Let the track go. Even she couldn't escape from his deadly driving skills. The scariest thing about him wasn't his superb driving skills, but the fact that he was an experienced driver. Lin Yan nagged as though she was teaching a kindergartner. It took him more than 3 hours to reach the destination, and the sky was already dark. Alright, let's call it a day. Remember what I told you today. Remember all the traffic rules, especially don't go against traffic. If you can't understand the navigation, just turn on the voice. If you can't tell left from right, just write it on the back of your hand. Write left on the back of your left hand and right on the back of your right hand. As the car drove steadily, Lin Yan was giving Xiao Yao instructions when a little boy dashed out of the corner. Lin Yan yelled, "Brake!" Fortunately, Lin Yan's teachings hadn't gone to waste. Xiao Yao's reflexes had been swift enough to stop the car in time. However, even though Xiao Yao stopped the car, the little boy was still in shock. He still pounced toward their car and fell to the ground. Startled, Lin Yan got out of the car hastily. He saw a 5 or 6-year-old boy lying on the ground in a sorry state, crying loudly. "Little friend. Kid, are you alright?" Lin Yan rushed over to check on the kid. When the little boy heard Lin Yan's voice, he stopped crying and his body stiffened. A few seconds later, the little guy whimpered as he raised his head and gazed at Lin Yan with teary eyes. His eyes were filled with longing and grievance as though he was an abandoned puppy. End of this chapter. Chapter 1399. Lin Yan was startled when she saw the little boy. The little fellow had a pair of grape-like big eyes. His skin was snow-white and he looked like a ball of jade. His tearful little appearance was like a lost furry animal, making people feel tender and affectionate towards him. There was an inexplicable sense of closeness. She had never seen such a beautiful child before. Ah no, she had one at home. Mommy? Lin Yan was still in a daze when the little fellow crawled up like a swallow returning to the forest. He leaped into her arms, his tiny body trembling slightly. Suddenly, a soft ball of glutinous rice fell into her arms. Lin Yan froze for a moment. Why was this child calling her mommy? Lin Yan assumed that the child was frightened and didn't think much of it. She hurriedly checked on the child. Kid, are you hurt? The culprit got out of the car. Xiao Yao frowned as he gazed at the child in Lin Yan's arms. He looked conflicted. Mommy? The little fellow in her arms was crying so sadly that Lin Yan's heart ached. She drove to Xiao Yao, complaining, How could you drive? She hadn't expected that an accident would happen while she was teaching. She hadn't even kept an eye on him. His reputation had been ruined. Xiao Yao glanced at the little boy and said coldly, To be honest, you're not good at scamming. Given my driving skills, your tricks are too clumsy. No one will believe you. The little fellow clung to Lin Yan's arms like a koala bear. His tiny hands clutched Lin Yan's clothes tightly. He shrank back in Lin Yan's arms in fright. Mommy, this uncle is so scary. Mommy, it hurts. Lin Yan comforted the child in her arms as she glared at Xiao Yao. What nonsense are you talking about? He's still so young. How could he know about scamming? How could he blame a child for his lousy driving skills? Don't you know that you're being irresponsible? Initially, Lin Yan had thought that it was strange for the child to dash toward their car in broad daylight. However, if he had been trying to scam them, the mastermind would have come out to extort money. However, she hadn't seen him. Hence, it wasn't as Xiao Yao had said. Xiao Yao was speechless. Kid, why are you alone? Where is your home? Do you have mom and dad's phone number? The little fellow replied while sobbing, I don't have a father. Mother. You are my mother. Wherever my mother is, that is where my home is. Lin Yan's head throbbed when she heard the child's words. She turned to glare at Xiao Yao and whispered, Oh no. Did you give this child a concussion? Xiao Yao said, I didn't hit him. He was trying to scam me. I believe you should have a professional judgment. Lin Yan inhaled deeply. My professional opinion is that you should practice your driving skills. The little fellow popped his head out of Lin Yan's arms. Mommy, don't blame him. I was careless. Lin Yan turned to glare at Xiao Yao. Look at you. You're not as sensible as a child. Xiao Yao, Lin Yan picked the little fellow up. Kid, I'm taking you to the hospital for a checkup. Try to recall your parents' names and phone numbers. The little fellow blinked and suddenly asked, Mommy, what's your name? Lin Yan was startled. Huh? You mean me? My name is Lin Yan. The little fellow gazed at her, his eyes as bright as the sky that had been washed by the rain. He replied crisply, Mommy? My mommy's name is Lin Yan. End of this chapter. Chapter 1400. Lin Yan's heart skipped a beat when she heard the child. This child's eyes were too clear, and when he spoke, his gaze was also very sincere. Especially his eyes were filled with dependence and love, as if she was really his mother. Lin Yan tried to talk to the child for a long time, but she couldn't get any useful information. No one came to look for him either. Hence, Lin Yan decided to take the child to the hospital for a checkup. Xiao Yao objected to Lin Yan's decision. I didn't hit him just now. Even if I did, his body wouldn't be in any danger. Lin Yan ignored him. You don't even have a driver's license. Why don't you shut up? She had only found out that this fellow didn't have a domestic driver's license. He had an overseas driver's license, but she had no idea how he had obtained it. Hence, Lin Yan, a good racer, had been forced to become a driving instructor. Now she had to help him deal with a traffic accident. When they reached the hospital, Lin Yan performed a full-body checkup on the child. The results showed that there was nothing wrong with the child. He might have just been frightened. Doctor, are you sure he's fine? Why can't he remember anything? Why did he call me mommy? Lin Yan asked worriedly. According to the results, there's nothing wrong with him at all. You said it yourself just now, the car didn't touch his body in the surveillance footage. So, either he was momentarily frightened or he has some mental problems. The child pouted when he heard the doctor. Mommy, there's nothing wrong with my intelligence. Lin Yan could only comfort him. Okay. You're fine. The doctor was talking about you just now. After leaving the hospital and confirming that the child was fine, Lin Yin was in a dilemma again. Although this child wasn't injured, he didn't know anything, so he couldn't just leave him be. "Little friend, do you really not remember anything? Do you remember your name?" asked Lin Yin. The child's expression froze for a moment before he replied, "Mommy, my name is Chen Chen." Lin Yin raised an eyebrow. "Chen Chen? Chen Chen? Chen as in Chen Kun?" The child nodded. "Yeah." Lin Yin replied, "That's a good name. What's your surname?" The little fellow fell into silence again. This time it was a long while before he said, "My surname is whatever Mommy's surname is." Lin Yin looked helpless. Alright, she hadn't asked. In the end, all he got was a nickname. After leaving the hospital, Lin Yin had no choice but to bring her son to the police station. The police had compared the information of the missing children, but there was no news for the time being. If she couldn't find the child's parents, she would have no choice but to place him at the rescue center. However, the child was extremely dependent on her, so she couldn't bear to leave him like that. She had no choice but to bring him back to the rescue center. It was the father's fault for not teaching his son properly. As the master, she could not ignore the trouble her disciple had caused. Seeing how unreliable Xiao Yao was, Lin Yin didn't dare hand the child over to him. He had even asked her to take care of Xiao Li. How could she expect him to take care of the child? She patted Xiao Yao's shoulder and said, "Disciple, you've seen it for yourself. This is the consequence of not getting a driver's license. It doesn't matter to you, but you are endangering people's lives. Besides, I have to clean up your mess. Don't you feel ashamed?" Xiao Yao, this mess really had nothing to do with him. He wasn't ashamed at all. End of this chapter. Chapter 1401. Lin Yin instructed him sternly, "You have to do as I say when you go back. Download a driving test. Learn Subject 1 well. I'll teach you Subject 2 and 3 when you're free." Xiao Yao frowned, looking displeased. "When are we going on the track?" Lin Yin was fuming with anger when she saw that Xiao Yao refused to give up. "You haven't even learned how to walk, yet you're already thinking of running away. Wait until you get your license." He thought that she wanted to teach him Subject 1, 2, and 3. "Oh yeah?" Lin Yin coughed softly and glanced at Xiao Yao. "I'll forget about you wrecking my car last night, but you still have to take responsibility for what happened today. I'm helping you take care of this child, right?" Xiao Yao asked. "So?" Lin Yin glanced at him reluctantly. "We're old friends, so I won't cheat you. Besides, we've worked together once. This time I'll give you the second half price." Xiao Yao was speechless. The little fellow frowned and tugged at Lin Yan's sleeve. "Mommy, what do you mean by the second half price?" "Mommy, I don't want half price." "Okay. Then it's not half price." Lin Yin glanced at Xiao Yao and shrugged. "I have no choice. The child isn't willing, so you have to pay the full price. Remember to transfer the money to my account." Xiao Yao was speechless. Xiao Yao had recognized the child at first glance and knew his motive. However, he didn't want to make an enemy out of nothing. In the end, he chose to remain silent. In the end, not only had he been blackmailed once, but he had also suffered a loss. Both of them were her sons, so why did he have to pay for their upbringing? Lin Yin was in a dilemma as she took Xiao Qian with her. Now they could only bring him home for the time being. Otherwise, the child was already frightened. If they left him alone at the police station, the situation might worsen. Lin Yin hadn't had time to tell Pei Yuqing about this because everything had happened so suddenly. Pei Yuqing would bring Xiao Li to the office when he wasn't at home. The little fellow was obedient, so Lin Yin didn't have to worry about him. When Lin Yin brought Xiao Qian to Cloud Manor, there was no one at home. Pei Yuqing should still be at work. "Little Qian, we're home. Can you stay with me for the time being? I'll be wherever Mom is." "Be good, I'll go get you some fruit. Sit here and wait for me." "Okay, Mom." After Lin Yin entered the kitchen, the sweet smile on the little fellow's face turned into one of vigilance. Qing Yi scanned his surroundings discreetly. His gaze slowly landed on the cartoon pillows on the sofa, the children's kettle on the coffee table, and the few pairs of powdery blue children's slippers that he saw at the entrance when he first entered the house. The little guy's face turned ugly bit by bit, and his fingers clenched into fists. The little fellow seemed to have sensed something, and his gaze immediately turned towards the direction of the door like an ice blade. A few seconds later, footsteps came from the door. Cheng Yimou held a pile of documents in his hands and opened them first, followed closely by Xing Chen. Xing Chen was sucking on a lollipop as he stretched lazily and spoke to Cheng Yimou. "Old Cheng, I can't take it anymore. I'm on tenterhooks every day. Every second feels like I'm walking on a tightrope." Cheng Yimou sighed. Wasn't he the same? With such a lethal weapon by his side that could explode at any moment, He didn't dare to relax for even a second. He still had lingering fears when the little devil had flipped out at the office. Xing Chen took the lollipop out of his mouth and said, "I would rather be transferred to Europe. It's really miserable now. Is there anything worse and scarier than taking care of the little devil?" The moment Xing Chen said that, he suddenly realized that something was amiss. He raised his head and glanced in the direction of the living room. A second later, he saw a beautiful and cute little ball swinging its short legs on the sofa in the living room. It tilted its head and smiled at him. Chapter 1402. The lollipop in Xing Chen's mouth snapped into two halves with a crunching sound. His face slowly turned pale and finally turned ashen. He looked as though the person sitting on the sofa wasn't a cute kid, but a prehistoric monster. Cheng Yimou noticed that something was wrong with Xing Chen's expression. "What's wrong?" Xing Chen instinctively took a step back. Cheng Yimou followed Xing Chen's line of sight. When he saw the person on the sofa, his pupils constricted. He couldn't believe his eyes. "Pei Qian." Cheng Yimou turned pale with fright. "Why is he here?" Xing Chen swallowed his saliva. "How am I supposed to know? What the hell?" No one had expected that Pei Qian, who had been imprisoned in the old mansion, would suddenly appear in the country and come looking for them. Just as the two of them were panicking, they heard the sound of the door opening. Then Pei Li walked in. Oh no. The big one was back. Pei Li was sharper than Xing Chen and Cheng Yimou. He had sensed something different the moment he stepped in. His eyes pierced through Xing Chen and Cheng Yimou, who were trembling in fear, and landed on the person on the sofa. Both of them were cute and beautiful. One was cold while the other was arrogant. Their gazes collided in the air at the same time. In an instant, the air in the living room seemed to be distorted by a vacuum pump. The immense pressure made one's internal organs feel as though they were about to be crushed. However, the two of them seemed to have a tacit understanding. The range of the pressure was limited to the living room, with the kitchen as the boundary. F***C. Xing Chen, who was the closest to Pei Li, couldn't react in time. His body was slammed against the wall behind him. Cheng Yimou wasn't any better. He was forced to bend his knees as cold sweat trickled down his forehead. "Brother, you save me?" Xing Chen was sprawled on the ground, unable to move. He could only lift his mechanical arms slightly. Fortunately, Pei Yuqing was right behind him. Pei Li had just entered the living room when he entered. However, before Xing Chen could rejoice, Pei Yuqing's entry seemed to have agitated the person on the sofa. The terrifying pressure suddenly doubled. The confrontation between the two brothers had turned into a confrontation between a father and a son. Xing Chen was speechless. One of them was already a nuclear weapon. If there was another one, it would be as though the world was collapsing. He was probably going to die here today. What happened? Pei Yuqing's face darkened as he glanced at Cheng Yimou. Cheng Yimou clutched his chest. "It's my fault. It's just that I haven't received any news. As of this morning, the news from the old mansion said that second young master is still in the old mansion." Ever since Pei Li suddenly appeared in China, he had been keeping a close eye on Pei Qian. He had also increased his manpower by several times, and there were people reporting to him every day. Who knew that this person would appear in China out of nowhere and enter Cloud Manor openly? He didn't even set off the alarm. How did he do it? Go back. Pei Yuqing's eyes were emotionless as he glanced coldly at Pei Qian. Pei Qian's eyes revealed a trace of disdain. "Do you really think you can imprison me? The fruits are cut." At this moment, a clear and pleasant voice suddenly came from the kitchen. It was as if a huge hole had been torn open in the air, and the pressure disappeared without a trace, as if nothing had happened. End of chapter. Chapter 1403. I'm saved. Xing Chen felt as though he had just escaped death. He gazed at Lin Yan as though he was looking at the Virgin Mary. Sister Yan was home. That was great. Pei Li, who had been as cold as an iceberg, instantly transformed into a cute little cutie. He called out sweetly, "Sister?" Pei Qian, who looked like an erupting volcano, leaped off the couch like a furry animal. He pounced on Lin Yan and hugged her leg. "Mommy, huh?" "Mommy." Xing Chen and Cheng Mo's expressions changed when they heard Pei Qian call her mommy. Pei Li's expression froze as well. Although Pei Yuqing's expression remained impassive, there was an obvious look of astonishment in his eyes. Even Lin Yan was scared out of her wits. Lin Yan coughed violently when she heard Pei Qian call her mommy. Her first reaction was to explain to Pei Yuqing. She hurried over to Pei Yuqing and whispered, "It's not what you think. Listen to me. I have nothing to do with this child." Lin Yan swiftly recounted what had happened today to Pei Yuqing. I went to teach Xiao Yao how to drive today, but his driving skills were terrible. He accidentally hit a child who doesn't remember where he lives or who his parents are. I don't know why he called me mommy the moment he saw me. I sent him to the police station, but there was no news, so I brought him back. I will send him to them when there is news. Pei Yuqing was speechless after listening to Lin Yan's explanation. Pei Li looked in Pei Qian's direction with disbelief written all over his face. Shameless. Lin Yan panicked when Pei Yuqing remained silent. Don't tell me you don't believe me? Do you really think that I gave birth to this child? This child really has nothing to do with me. Pei Yuqing fell silent for some time. I believe you. That's good. Lin Yan heaved a sigh of relief. Then, can this child stay here for 2 days? This was the third time Pei Yuqing had fallen silent today. Lin Yan scratched her head as though she felt that it was too much trouble for him. Actually, she didn't like to trouble others, but subconsciously, she hadn't considered this problem when she was with him. She had no idea when she had started treating him as one of her own. Would it be too troublesome for you? Otherwise I'd better. No, I won't. Pei Yuqing interrupted her. Of course you can. How could he not understand her personality, so no matter what, he could not say a word of rejection. Xing Chen and Cheng Mo. Brother you. Boss. Wake up. Do you know what you're saying? Are you sure you want Big Devil and Little Devil to stay here together? Xing Chen and Cheng Mo watched in horror as Lin Yan pulled Pei Qian to his side and introduced him. Chen Qian, this is Uncle Pei. Pei Qian blinked his big, clear eyes and smiled, revealing his canine teeth. Hello, Uncle. Pei Yuqing replied. Hi. Lin Yan glanced at Pei Li. Qian, this is Xiao Li. You can call him. Who is older? Pei Yuqing replied. Give me a bigger gift. Chapter 1404. Lin Yan nodded. Qian, you can call him Brother Xiaoli. Pei Qian smiled sweetly. Hello, Brother Xiaoli. Brother Xiaoli is so handsome. His eyes are like the stars in the sky and his lips are like rose petals. Pei Li was speechless. Lin Yan added, this is Xingqian. You can call him Brother Xingqian. Pei Qian continued to smile. Hello, Brother Xingqian. You are so handsome. Many girls must like you. Xingqian was speechless. Lin Yan glanced at Cheng Mo. This is Cheng Mo. You can call him Uncle Cheng. Pei Qian replied, hello, Uncle Cheng. Uncle Cheng, why are you sweating? Is it too hot? Drink some water. Cheng Mo was speechless. Ha ha, this was too frightening. Lin Yan chuckled softly. How did this child's parents raise him? Why was he so sweet? Lin Yan was still smiling when she realized that something was amiss. Wait a minute, Pei Yuqing. How did you know that Xiaoli is bigger? Pei Yuqing replied. I guessed. Lin Yan was puzzled. Guessed? The two children looked the same age. How could he tell? Lin Yan scrutinized the two kids and realized that not only were they about the same age, but they were also equally beautiful. If she took a closer look, she would realize that there was a resemblance between their eyes and brows. However, their personalities were completely different. Xiaoli was obedient and reserved. He would only say a word or two in front of her. Chen Qian, on the other hand, was lively, sweet, and clingy. He was good at flattering people. I thought that no other couple in this world could have a more beautiful and adorable child than Xiaoli. Who would have thought that I would meet another one? Lin Yan sighed softly. Pei Yuqing was speechless. It's an honor that we gave birth to both of them. Lin Yan could sense that Xiaoli was in low spirits. He looked like a sapling that had been deprived of sunlight for a long time. Hence, Lin Yan knelt down and hugged him. Baby, come here. What's wrong today? Are you unhappy? The little fellow's dim eyes lit up as he hugged Lin Yan. No, sister. Xiaoli is very happy. Lin Yan kissed the little fellow's cheek. As long as you're happy. Suddenly there was a boom. The vase on the coffee table suddenly fell to the ground and broke into pieces. Lin Yan jumped in fright. What happened? Pei Yuqing glanced at his son. I'm fine. The wind blew. Xingqian laughed dryly. I'll go clean. Pei Qian's face darkened momentarily before he regained his composure. The little fellow strode over to Lin Yan and tugged at her sleeve. He called out sweetly, Mommy? Lin Yan asked, Huh? Mom, is Big Brother Xiaoli also your child? Pei Qian blinked and asked. Lin Yan instinctively replied, Huh? Isn't Xiaoli? Before Lin Yan could finish her sentence, a series of loud clanging sounds rang out one after another. The murals hanging on the wall all fell off at the same time. Lin Yan jumped in fright. What's going on? Pei Yuqing pinched his temples. It's fine. It hasn't been repaired for a long time. Ching Yimo will arrange for someone to take care of it later. Ching Yimo coughed softly. Okay, I'll arrange it right away. End of this chapter. Chapter 1405. Lin Yin glanced at Pei Yuqing doubtfully before she instinctively glanced at Xiao Li. What was going on? Was she imagining things? Why had she sensed an extremely powerful and dangerous aura from Xiao Li? In the first round, the big and small devils were evenly matched. Xing Qin and Ching Yimo fled and urgently increased the manpower near the villa. Lin Yin arranged a guest room for Pei Qian. The little fellow was afraid of the dark when he slept alone at night, so Lin Yin had no choice but to let him accompany Xiao Li while she accompanied Xiao Qian. Fortunately, Xiao Li was very sensible and obedient, so he allowed her to accompany his brother. Late at night, in the dense forest a kilometer away from Cloud Manor, two harmless and even cute little balls were standing face to face in the dense forest. Ching Yimo and Xing Qin followed them and hid behind a tree, shivering in fear. Their mission was to protect the safety of the two young masters. That's right, they had to protect the big and little devils. I've never accepted such a speechless mission in my life. Xing Qin was so depressed that he didn't even have the mood to eat his lollipop. Ching Yimo was having a headache as well. If they fight later, who should we help? The corners of Xing Qin's mouth twitched. If we fight later, you should think about who will help us bury the ashes, not who we should help. Ching Yimo was speechless. As the two of them spoke, the air around them distorted. Pei Li's soft and adorable face was cold and devoid of any human emotions. He casually waved his hand forward and the huge tree behind Pei Qian exploded from the center under the immense pressure, crashing towards Pei Qian. Pei Qian snorted arrogantly as his tiny figure flew like a bolt of lightning. A second later he appeared behind Pei Li. The two of them had already exchanged hundreds of blows in the forest. In such a short period of time, Pei Qian and Pei Li's level seemed to have risen to a terrifying level. The pressure brought about by their level alone was enough to make Xing Qin and Ching Yimo lose their ability to move. Without a doubt, the two of them only had one purpose here, and that was to be cannon fodder. Swoosh! A huge tree hurtled towards Pei Qian. Although Pei Qian's speed was very fast, he was still a step too late. His left ankle was hit and he staggered a few steps back. Pei Qian's eyes sharpened. In the next second, countless thick trees were uprooted and flew towards Pei Li. Not good? Xing Qin was alarmed. He hadn't expected Pei Qian's level to be even more terrifying than he had imagined. He was almost on par with Pei Li. Xing Qin and Ching Yimo watched as one of the huge trees smashed towards Pei Li's chest. Oh no! Ching Yimo panicked. I have to stop Pei Qian quickly. Just as the two of them were in a state of panic, in the next second, they saw with their own eyes that Pei Li was still standing there expressionlessly after being hit by such a thick tree. He didn't even move. In the next second, Pei Qian's chest, which had almost been smashed, began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. In less than 10 seconds, Pei Qian's body had already recovered, and there were no signs of injury. Pei Qian's face darkened as he snorted, "Humph, monster?" Pei Li laughed coldly. So what? Even if I'm a monster, I'm still the one my mother loves the most. This sentence was like a sore spot for Pei Qian. End of this chapter. Chapter 1406. Because of Pei Li's special ability and the fact that he could easily lose control and hurt others, no one dared to approach him. Lin Yin had spent most of her time and energy comforting and accompanying Pei Li. Every time Pei Li lost control, his mother would accompany him. Even Pei Qian felt that his mother loved Pei Li the most, not him. Pei Qian's face darkened as the leaves around him swirled in the wind. Pei Qian's skin was cut and healed by the leaves and branches. This scene was simply too strange. Xing Qin swallowed his saliva. This is immortality, Ching Yimo muttered. I almost forgot that Pei Li can't get hurt. However, it was still shocking to see it with his own eyes. No wonder the Pei family had controlled Pei Li the moment he had been born. No one had dared to approach him. Such an ability was too dangerous. Even though Pei Qian's ability was comparable to Pei Li's, he had no chance of winning against Pei Li Rumble. The surroundings were in a mess as though it was the end of the world. Pei Qian and Pei Li were obviously on the verge of losing control, especially Pei Li, who was prone to losing control. Actually, this wasn't the scariest moment for Pei Li. If he lost control completely, it would be a true disaster. No matter what, trying to stop him now would be akin to courting death. Just as Xing Qin and Ching Yimo were at their wits' end, Pei Yuqing strode over from the edge of the forest. Pei Yuqing yelled, "Pei Li, Pei Qian, stop." It was obvious that neither of his sons was easy to deal with. Besides, they were both in a fit of anger and had no intention of bothering with their father. Pei Qian yelled, "You're in the way." Pei Li replied, Go away. Pei Yuqing didn't say anything else. He merely raised his hand, whipped out his phone and made a call. Xiaoyan, Xiaoli and Xiao Qian are missing. I'm looking for them in the forest behind the mansion. Maybe they couldn't sleep and ran out to play. I'm not sure either. Perhaps they got into a fight because of some conflict. All right, come here. The moment Pei Yuqing whipped out his phone and called out Lin Yan's name, the two little devils stopped fighting. When he finished his sentence, both of them stopped fighting and jumped down from the tree. They were several times faster than they had been when they had been fighting earlier. Pei Qian frantically brushed away the dust on his body. He couldn't get rid of the dust on his back, so he paced around anxiously. Pei Qian adjusted his clothes as he shouted at his father in a childish voice, "Pei, you're too shameless. You actually snitched on me. Are you still a man?" Pei Qian glared at Xing Chen and Qing Yimo, who were hiding behind him. "Come and help me." Cough cough, here it comes. Xing Chen and Qing Yimo stared dumbfoundedly at the two young masters who were caught off guard. They could only rush over to pat the dirt off the little devil's body. Pei Qian's clothes were still intact, but Pei Li was in more trouble. Because he had been hit in the chest by a huge tree, his clothes were all destroyed. When Pei Qian saw Pei Li staring at him, he immediately became wary. "What are you doing? Your clothes are torn, don't tell me you want to snatch mine?" End of chapter. Chapter 1407. Lin Yan rushed to the place where Pei Yuqing had mentioned. The moment she arrived, she saw the two kids standing there in a dirty state. Pei Li's clothes had been torn. What shocked her the most was that the forest looked as though it had been ravaged by a tornado. It was a mess. What had happened? Have you found them? What was going on? Why would the two kids be here in the middle of the night? Lin Yan asked anxiously. A trace of panic flashed across Pei Li's eyes. Pei Qian ran to Lin Yan. "Mommy, don't blame Brother Xiaoli. It's all my fault. I couldn't sleep and I didn't want to disturb you, so I dragged Brother Xiaoli out to play. In the end, we accidentally fell and dirted our clothes. Mommy, I'm sorry." Pei Li was speechless. Lin Yan looked helpless. "Qian, it's very dangerous for kids to run out at night. What if they encounter bad guys and get caught? If you can't sleep next time, wake me up. You can't come out alone again. Do you understand?" Little boys were indeed energetic, so Lin Yan didn't doubt him. At most, she suspected that the two of them had gotten into a fight, but they didn't dare tell her. Xing Chen was speechless. Who would be in danger if she let him out? It was too difficult to find bad guys. "Got it, Mommy. I won't do it again," the little guy promised. "This forest? What happened?" Lin Yan scanned her surroundings, still feeling that something was amiss. Pei Qian blinked innocently. "I don't know. It was already like this when I came with Brother." Pei Li was speechless. Pei Yuqing was speechless. Xing Chen was speechless. Qing Yimo was speechless. That was an explanation. It was too dark, so Lin Yan couldn't see her surroundings clearly. She didn't suspect anything when she heard Pei Qian's words. Of course, a child wouldn't lie. Lin Yan noticed that Pei Li's clothes were torn and looked worried. "Xiaoli, come here. Are you hurt?" Pei Li walked over obediently. "Sister, I'm not hurt. Don't worry." "Really?" His clothes were torn to this extent, how could he not be injured? Lin Yan was worried, so she used her phone to take a closer look. Indeed, the little fellow was perfectly fine. There wasn't even a scratch on his body. "It's good that you're not injured." Lin Yan was relieved. Pei Qian stared at her anxiously. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Mommy, I'm injured." "What? Where are you hurt?" Lin Yan's attention was instantly drawn to him. My hand is broken." Pei Qian raised his small hand. There was a piece of skin on his thumb. Lin Yan frowned. "I'll help you apply some medicine." "Does it hurt?" Pei Qian looked aggrieved. "It hurts." Mommy helped Qian breathe. Lin Yan, of course, couldn't reject this adorable baby's request. She lowered her head and blew on his hair. Pei Qian lay in his mother's arms and looked up at his brother proudly. It's indestructible. That's amazing. You will never be able to use this trick of self-injury, my dear brother." "You." Pei Li could tell that Pei Qian was showing off. He was so angry that he clenched his fists. Xing Chen and Qing Yimo, who were watching the turbulent atmosphere between the two brothers, glanced at each other speechlessly. Neither of them spoke, trying their best to minimize their presence. Chapter 1408. Mommy, my feet hurt too. Mommy, carry me. Pei Qian seemed to have realized that wheedling was very effective on Lin Yan. Hence, he began to act coquettishly. Instinctively, Xing Chen took a step back to distance himself from Pei Li. "Don't court death, little devil. Do you want me to beat you up?" You won't be able to beat me if we fight. Although Pei Li didn't say a word, Lin Yan could sense the little fellow's emotions. Xiaoli, are you all right? Do your feet hurt? Asked Lin Yan. Pei Li shook his head. Sister, I'm fine. Carry him. Pei Qian snorted coldly. How hypocritical. Lin Yan was in a dilemma. She could sense that Xiaoli was a little emotional because of Qian Qian's arrival. Hence, she paid extra attention to him. If she were to carry Qian Qian, Xiaoli would definitely be disappointed, even though he wouldn't say anything. Lin Yan scratched her head and pondered for a moment. Suddenly she caught a glimpse of Pei Yuqing. Lin Yan's eyes lit up instantly. The two of them must be tired after running for so long. Pei Yuqing, carry them. It's too dark and I'm afraid I can't hold them properly. Okay. Pei Yuqing nodded obediently and squatted down. He lifted Pei Qian with his left hand and Pei Li with his right. He didn't give them any time to reject him. Pei Qian and Pei Li had never expected such an outcome. Caught unprepared, they were picked up by their own father. For a moment they stared at each other, stunned. Lin Yan looked satisfied as she watched Pei Yuqing carry the two little fellows. In this way the bowl of water was even. She was so smart. Lin Yan replied, that's good. Let Uncle Pei carry you. Pei Qian was speechless, Pei Li was speechless. His legs didn't hurt at all. He even wanted to run 8 kilometers. Pei Qian and Pei Li didn't seem to be used to being so close to Pei Yuqing. Both of them looked awkward. So hard. Mommy is still better. The night breeze was chilly, and Pei Yuqing was afraid that the two of them would catch a cold. Hence he took off his jacket and wrapped it around them. Only their little heads were exposed, and each of them occupied one of their father's shoulders. Pei Yuqing hugged her tightly and walked at a steady pace. Although the two little fellows felt awkward, they did not struggle. It seemed that it was not as hard to accept as they had imagined. Lin Yan watched as Pei Yuqing carried the two kids. For some reason, her heart warmed. She couldn't help but say, Pei Yuqing? Pei Yuqing asked, huh? Lin Yan replied, if you become a father in the future, you will definitely be a good father. Pei Yuqing was startled. Really? Unfortunately, he wasn't. This place wasn't far from Cloud Manor, so the family of 4 quickly returned home. Lin Yan asked the two of them to shower and change their clothes. When she was about to arrange a room for them to sleep in, she was stumped. Pei Qian would definitely stick to her. What she didn't expect was that Pei Li actually made a request for the first time. Pei Li seemed to hesitate for a long time before he finally said firmly, Sister, I also want to sleep with you. All along, Pei Li had given Lin Yan the impression that he was so sensible that it made her heart ache for him. He had never made any requests of her. This was the first time. Lin Yan felt gratified. This child was finally willing to express himself. Hence, how could Lin Yan bear to reject him? Lin Yan glanced at Pei Yuqing helplessly. What should I do? Pei Yuqing glanced at the girl and replied unhurriedly, I want to sleep with you too. Lin Yan was speechless. End of this chapter. Chapter 1409. The two little kids and Pei Yuqing stared at her helplessly. Lin Yan glared at Pei Yuqing helplessly. Why did he join in the commotion? She was counting on him to coax the kids, but she had to coax one more? The two little kids, who had been fighting for attention, hadn't expected Pei Yuqing to intervene. Their faces were filled with shock. Pei Yuqing quipped, boys at this age should learn to be independent. Pei Qian quipped, what's wrong with boys at this age? Uncle, you should be more independent at your age. Pei Yuqing quipped, at my age only single men need to be independent. Those with girlfriends don't need to be. Pei Qian was speechless. The corners of Lin Yan's mouth twitched. After arguing for a long time, the 4 of them ended up sleeping together. They slept in Pei Yuqing's master bedroom, which was spacious enough for 4 people. The next day was Saturday and Pei Yuqing was off. Lin Yan wanted to practice driving. This time she wasn't worried about the 2 kids. After all, Pei Yuqing, Xing Chen and Qing Mo were around. She was worried about Pei Yuqing. How have you been? Asked Lin Yan. As usual, Pei Yuqing replied, yeah, I'm fine. Lin Yan didn't respond. Instead, she glanced at Qing Mo. Qing Mo immediately nodded, indicating that Pei Yuqing wasn't lying. Miss Lin, based on the results of the recent tests, President Pei's condition is considered stable. Lin Yan finally believed him. That's good. Pei Yuqing had naturally seen the interaction between Lin Yan and Qing Mo. Qing Mo had almost become Lin Yan's subordinate, and he, the boss, no longer had the right to speak. However, you can't let your guard down. After all, your problem is quite serious. If it relapses, it will be even more difficult for you to recover. Lin Yan instructed him, you can't exceed your working hours by even a minute. You have to rest every once in a while, and you have to take the medicine that the doctor has prescribed. Oh yeah, you can't slack off on your training. When you're free, take Xiaoli and Chen Chen for a walk. Pei Yuqing's eyes were filled with tenderness as he studied the girl's earnest expression. I know. I will. Lin Yin glared at him. Of course you would. Don't think that I don't know that you threatened Qing Mo several times when I wasn't around. I'm telling you, Qing Mo is my man. Don't scare him. Pei Yuqing glanced at silent disaster. No, Qing Mo. Miss Lin, please watch your words. However, there was an inexplicable sense of security. Was this the sense of security that came from the support of the lady boss? Xing Chen said, Old Qing, I'm so envious. Lin Yin seemed to have thought of something. After telling Pei Yuqing to play, she called Pei Qian and Pei Li aside. Xiaoli, Qian, can you do me a favor? Asked Lin Yin. Pei Li, sister, of course I can. What is it? Pei Qian replied, how can I be helping mommy? That's what Qian should do. Just tell me what mommy needs Qian to do. Lin Yin chuckled softly and fished out a form. Do you guys know how to read? I know that Xiaoli can read this. What about Qian? Pei Qian patted his chest. Mommy, of course I know how to read. Lin Yin chuckled softly. That's good. This paper was Uncle Pei's schedule. However, he will forget about it when he's busy. Uncle Qing Mo is his subordinate, so he's afraid of him and can't control him. Hence, I would like to ask Xiaoli and Qian to help me look after Uncle Pei when I go out to work. Make sure that he follows his schedule strictly. He can't forget to rest and eat once he starts working. Can I? Pei Li and Pei Qian exchanged a look but remained silent. Mommy, do you like Uncle Pei a lot? Pei Qian looked conflicted. Lin Yin was startled when she heard him. Then she smiled and stroked Pei Qian's head. Yeah, I like Uncle Pei a lot. He's the most gentle person I've ever met. End of this chapter. Chapter 14:10. Pei Qian subconsciously looked at Pei Li. Was the person that Mom was talking about the same person that they knew? Pei Li had come first, so he was used to his father's shocking changes. Hence he remained calm. Sister, I got it. I will help you look after Uncle, Pei Li replied obediently. Pei Qian didn't back down. Mom, don't worry. I will complete the task. Good boy. I'll leave it to the two of you. On the way to the training ground, Lin Yan's phone kept ringing. She had no choice but to answer it. As soon as the call was connected, Sun Xuan's wailing voice could be heard. Master, how can the organizers be so shameless? It's fine that you didn't let Boss and the others participate in the first level, but how could they go back on their word? They agreed to let me enter the first level, yet they went back on their word. Lin Yin raised an eyebrow when she heard that. She thought to herself, well done. Are you guys still in the country? Asked Lin Yin. Sun Xuan replied, yeah. Since we're already here, we should get used to the environment. After the first level, the competition will be held. We have to get used to the environment. Master, why didn't you pick up my call? What are you busy with? Are you secretly teaching the juniors a killer move? Master, you're too biased. I want one too. Lin Yin snapped, why are you teaching them a killer move? I've been helping your 6th junior get a driver's license. Sun Xuan was puzzled. A driver's license? 6th junior hasn't gotten an S license yet? Lin Yin replied, he got a C license and it's automatic. Thank you. Sun Xuan thought that he had heard wrongly. A C2 license? Isn't that an ordinary license? Lin Yin replied, yes, you heard it right. It's an ordinary driving license in the country. It's the lowest level. You don't have to repeat it. Thank you. Sun Xuan quipped, isn't 6th junior the richest man in the world? Lin Yin was speechless. In the western suburbs at the Capital International Racetrack, this was the largest and most advanced racetrack in the country. Mo Shuyun had already arranged a time for the team to train. Besides Lin Yin and Yun Xian, Mo Shuyun and Qi Feng had also entered the first level of the international competition. The Aurora Racing team had a total of 7 spots, and 4 of them had qualified for the first level of the international competition. As a newly established team, such a result was unique even in the whole of China. Although Zhou Yu, Jing Xiran and Xiao Haiqing, who were transferred from other teams, didn't make it into the first division, they still achieved better results than expected. For their professional careers, it was a very good start. After all, in the beginning they had all come with the thought of accompanying them. In the end, they had all made it into the second level of the Global League. This was already a great reward. If the others in the team achieved good results, it was also an honor for them. Joining the Aurora team was definitely the best decision they had ever made. Zhou Yu, who had always been at odds with Lin Yan, had now become Lin Yan's fan. Our team is really proud this time. 4 out of 7. Even the two old monster teams, Thunderous Sound and Lightspeed, only had 3 people qualified for the first level of the international competition. China's first team was completely annihilated, not even 2 captains made it. End of chapter. Chapter 14:11. Zhou Yu continued, Team 2 is even worse off, alright? Previously, Team 2 was always protesting about how unfair it was, saying that our Aurora Motorsport team got in through the back door, saying that they were stronger than us, and that they should have been allowed to compete. This time, 2 members of Team 1 had to withdraw from the race. In the end, they made a mess. Su Kai was last and Zhang Hao was second to last. Fortunately, our captain and Yun Xian managed to turn the tide and clinch first and second place. Otherwise, they would have embarrassed the entire team. Zheng Xiran gossiped, I heard that a famous female celebrity sponsored Team 2. I think her name is Lin Shuya. I'm afraid they are going to lose all their money. However, I just received insider news that the female celebrity has switched to the Thunderous Sound Battle team again. Originally, the Thunderous Sound Battle team wouldn't be interested in this kind of investment. However, perhaps because their limelight was stolen by the Thunderous Sound Battle team and their results weren't very ideal, they didn't manage to get too many sponsors, so they agreed to cooperate. Mo Shuyun felt as though a lifetime had passed since he heard his teammates gossip. Not long ago he had been a stray dog who had been kicked out of KNT. Now, he had become the captain of a seeded team in the first level of the international competition. When he had first established Aurora, his goal had been to become a racer. If he could enter the 3rd level of the international competition, he would die without regrets. Even he had never imagined that Aurora would achieve such results. In the past, he wouldn't have dared to dream of entering the 1st level of the international competition. And all of this was because of his encounter with that girl outside the KNT team. At the time he had thought of her as his goddess, Lin Pianruo. He had never imagined that this girl would bring him to a whole new world. He still remembered what Lin Yan had said. Why don't we talk about a team? At the time he hadn't known that Lin Yan knew how to race. He had thought that Lin Yan had asked him for advice because she wanted to act in a movie. Who would have thought that she would invite him to form a team with her? Mo Shuyun snapped out of his reverie. Stop chatting. Let's go in. The training is about to begin. Zhou Yu came over and asked in a low voice, Hey Captain, did we get a lot of sponsors this time? I heard that the number of investors and advertisers who have come to our door is already lining up. Mo Shuyun, who knew what they were thinking, chuckled. Don't worry. Everyone will get a share of the prize money. They immediately cheered. Captain, will Master be training with us today? Yun Xian, who had been silent all this while, asked. Sister Yin, are you coming today? We still have questions to ask her. Zhou Yu and the others also spoke up in anticipation. During the 3rd level of the international competition, Lin Yin hadn't participated in any training. Instead, she had spent most of her time teaching Yun Xian and helping them. Previously, they had some opinions about this. In the beginning, they had looked down on her methods and ideas, thinking that it was all talk on paper. Now that he thought about it, he was utterly convinced. What Lin Yin had taught them was extremely useful in actual combat. In a short period of time, almost everyone had improved tremendously. Come here. She said she would come yesterday, Mo Shuyun said. Lin Yin had arrived just as Mo Shuyun finished speaking. Zhou Yu and the others greeted her obediently. Good morning, Sister Yin. Good morning, Master. End of chapter. Chapter 14:12. Good morning, guys. Lin Yin said as she scanned her surroundings. Mo Shuyun asked, Goddess, what are you looking for? Boss isn't here, right? Lin Yin asked softly. Mo Shuyun chuckled. Boss Xiao must have an appointment with a sponsor today. Lin Yin patted her chest. That's good. She really didn't want to see him on the track. Just as Mo Shuyun was about to lead everyone in for training, a group of people suddenly blocked his way. It was the members of the Thunder Sound team and the Speed of Light team. The captains of both teams were there as well. One of the members of the Thunder Sound team glared at them and yelled, Don't block the way. Mo Shuyun still had a polite smile on his face as he reminded them, Everyone, we have already booked the venue in Zone A. That member replied immediately, What do you mean by that? We are going to train with the Speed of Light team today. We have already told the manager. Are you looking for trouble on purpose? Mo Shuyun frowned slightly. Are you talking about Manager Zhang? I confirmed it with him a week ago. As they were talking, Manager Zhang came over. Mo Shuyun asked immediately, Manager Zhang, didn't we make an appointment? What's going on? Manager Zhang wiped his sweat awkwardly. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I made a mistake. Actually, the venue in Zone A has been booked by God Yang and the others. I was wrong. It had been booked early? The manager couldn't have made such a mistake. In that case, it could only be that the Thunder Sound team and the Speed of Light team had booked the venue later. However, the manager couldn't afford to offend them, so he had stood them up and said that he had made a mistake. In the racing industry, the Thunder Sound team and the Speed of Light team were unshakable. Both teams were Black Diamond members of the track, so there was no doubt that the manager would be biased towards them. Mo Shuyun inhaled deeply. Since you've made a mistake, let's both take a step back. Zone A is huge and should be able to accommodate 3 teams. Mo Shuyun had already decided to take a step back, but the other party refused. The member of the Thunder Sound team looked wary. How can we do that? Today is a closed-door training session for the Thunder Sound team and the Speed of Light team. All the training content is confidential. Another member of the Lightspeed motorcade raised his eyebrows and said, You guys aren't thinking of secretly learning it, are you? Zhou couldn't bear to listen any longer. Hey, don't be so harsh with your words. What do you mean by stealing? Do we need them? The Thunder Sound team members sneered. Isn't that the case? Don't tell me you really think you're so great just because you won the 3rd division and lost all of the 2nd division? Who would put their true strength into those 2 competitions? In other words, the Thunderous Sound motorcade and the Lightspeed motorcade had yet to display their true strength and were merely hiding it. Zhou was infuriated. We're all from the Hua Nation. Don't you think this is too unsightly? You're measuring the heart of a gentleman with your own mean measure. The members of the Speed of Light team had looks of disdain on their faces. Vile people. I wonder who is the villain here. You look like a scoundrel intoxicated by success. Ling Yang's expression was already very impatient. I don't have time to listen to you guys quarrel here. Yang deity, I'll settle it right away. The manager turned to Mo Shuyun and said, Captain Mo, I'm really sorry. Why don't you go to Zone F? End of chapter. Chapter 14-13. Zone F is so small. It's fine, but we are training for the first level of the international competition. How can Zone F be enough? Isn't there a bigger venue? Zhou was infuriated. These 2 teams were clearly relying on their seniority to gang up on them. They were all teams from the country, yet they had teamed up to bully them. Wasn't it because they were unhappy that they had stolen their limelight? I'm really sorry, but Zone B and C have been reserved by other teams. Manager Zhang looked troubled. Besides, they couldn't afford to offend the other teams. Mo Shuyun's face darkened. The training for the first level of the international competition was very important. If they couldn't find a venue, they would be in trouble. How could they find a venue that met the standards of the first level of the international competition? All the other teams had already booked the venues. At this moment, a man wearing a mask walked out from the opposite Zone B. The man instinctively wanted to pounce on Lin Yan and call her his master. However, he seemed to be afraid of being scolded, so he restrained himself. Hello. If you don't mind, why don't you come to our venue? Sun Xuan invited them like a gentleman. Who are you? Sun Xuan was wearing a mask, so Mo Shuyun and the others couldn't recognize him. Our team is training in Zone B. We are the only team here, so the venue is big enough. Come over. Sun Xuan invited them warmly. Although Sun Xuan was wearing a mask, Lin Yan could recognize him at first glance. When she had called Sun Xuan last night, he had told her that the WZ team had arrived in the country and had started training. Who would have thought that they would also meet at this venue, and they even happened to bump into them? Who is your team? Asked Mo Shuyun. Sun Xuan waved his hand dismissively. We're just a small team. Lin Yan was speechless. Mo Shuyun asked, How should I address you, sir? Mo Shuyun was puzzled. Why would a small team rent such a huge venue in Zone B? Were they that rich? Sun Xuan replied, I'm just a racer. You wouldn't know my name even if I told you. Lin Yan was speechless. Sun Xuan seemed to be afraid that they wouldn't come, so he continued to invite them. He looked like a prostitute in a brothel. Come on. We're not worried that our training will be leaked, and we're not worried that you'll secretly learn from us. Mo Shuyun hesitated as he glanced at Lin Yan. Goddess, should we go over? If she had a choice, she definitely wouldn't want to go. However, the first international league was just around the corner. For everyone, every minute and every second of training time was precious. Thank you very much. In the end, Lin Yan agreed. At the same time, she shot Sun Xuan a warning glance. Alright, let's go. Since Lin Yan had spoken, Mo Shuyun had no objections. Yun Xian looked in Sun Xuan's direction suspiciously. Was he seeing things? The man with the mask looked familiar, and he seemed to have winked at him. Thank you, brother. You are so loyal. Zhou Yu walked over gratefully and placed her hand on Sun Xuan's shoulder. Sun Xuan smiled. You're welcome, you're welcome. We're family. We should help each other. Master's motorcade was like a family to them. Zhou Yu and the others assumed that Sun Xuan was implying that they were all Chinese so they should help each other. They didn't think much of it as they followed Sun Xuan. End of this chapter. Chapter 14:14. The members of the Aurora team followed Sun Xuan into the training ground. They didn't notice Manager Zhang's shocked expression. Manager Zhang was confused. He thought he had a memory problem. Did he remember wrongly? Wasn't the team that booked in Zone B the famous WZ team? The boss even welcomed them personally the day they arrived. How did it become a small team now? Also, that masked racer from a small team that I don't even know his name? Wasn't that Sun Xuan who had a cold recently? What was going on? Zhou Yu was still filled with righteous indignation. The thunderous sound racing team and the speed of light racing team are too much. Shouldn't China's racing teams be united at a time like this? What's so great about the old teams? All the good resources are taken by them. Jing Shiran chimed in. It's fine that we didn't enter the first level. We can go to Zone F, but Team MO and the others have to prepare for the first level. Thunderous Sound Team and Speed of Light Team are too sneaky. Luckily we have a kind person to help us. Otherwise we wouldn't be able to find a venue. Xiao Haiqing scratched his head. That's weird. Which team is helping us? Generally speaking, teams would rarely book the big venues that were only used for the A, B, and C international competitions. After all, the fees were not cheap, and it was even more expensive at the critical juncture of the international competition. Unless it's a team that's going to participate in the Global League or the Tournament of the Summit, which team would book a venue like this? Mo Shuyun thought it was weird too, but he didn't think too much about it. Who knows? Who doesn't need money? It's probably a small team funded by a rich second-generation heir or a coal boss. Mo Shuyun and the others didn't think too much about it. They followed Sun Xuan. However, as they walked, they realized that something was wrong. All the necessary equipment for a race car had already been set up on the spacious field. Every single one of them was ridiculously expensive. Teams that weren't in the top tier of the competition wouldn't be able to own one. On the racetrack, 3 racing cars were speeding past at lightning speed. Those familiar silver cars. Zhou Yu stuttered. This. Brothers, something's wrong. Jing Shiran said, the silver car that just sped past. If I'm not mistaken, it's the WZ team's mount? Xiao Haiqing, you guys look up. They raised their heads and followed Xiao Haiqing's line of sight. Above them was the nameplate of the team that was set up on the field. It was a striking logo, WZ. Zhou Yu and Jing Shiran's eyes widened at the same time. Holy shit. The team logo was hung up, so it couldn't be wrong. Captain. Quick look. What's going on? Everyone turned to look at Mo Shuyun. The corner of Mo Shuyun's mouth twitched. I saw it. I'm not blind. If you ask me, who would I ask? Everyone turned to Mo Shuyun, who turned to Lin Yan. Goddess, what's going on? Lin Yan coughed softly and blinked. I don't know. What happened? Yun Xian stared blankly at his surroundings. He finally came to his senses. It was no wonder that the masked man looked familiar. It turned out that he was not mistaken. It was really Fourth Senior Brother. End of chapter. Chapter 14:15. Just as the members of the Aurora team were dumbfounded, the 3 cars that had been training on the track reached the finish line one after another. The first to get out of the car was Lang Meng. The second person to get off the car was K. The third to get out of the car was Butcher. Zhou Yu was speechless, Jing Shiran was speechless, Xiao Haiqing was speechless, Mo Shuyun was speechless. They watched helplessly as the big shots of the racing industry, whom they had only seen on TV, got out of their cars one by one. They had completely lost their ability to think. What was going on? Lang Meng, King, Butcher. Any one of them would be considered a god in the racing industry. However, 3 of them had appeared before them at the same time. Jing Shiran yelled, Captain Mo, slap me. Am I dreaming? Zhou Yu turned her head stiffly to look at the masked man who had brought them here. Brother, don't tell me this. This is your so-called small convoy? Xiao Haiqing chimed in. Brother, did you bring us to the wrong place? Sun Xuan removed his mask and flashed them a warm smile. I didn't. This is the place. Zhou Jingxiran and Xiao Haiqing cried out, Sun? Sun Xuan. Sun Xuan removed his mask, and the three of them felt as though they had been struck by 1,000 blows. *CK. The four gods of the WZ team were all here. What kind of scene was this? Was this something they could get to see without spending money? Mo Shuyun was stunned as well. He hadn't expected that they would be invited by the WZ team. Mr. Sun, didn't you say that it was a small team? Sun Xuan replied calmly, it was a small team. There were only a few people in our team. Mo Shuyun was speechless. Only a few people? There weren't many racers, but all of them were big shots. The number of people working for them was enough to form a huge company. Sun Xuan glanced at Lin Yan proudly. My coach taught us to be humble since we were young. She was speechless. What did that have to do with her? Mo Shuyun was speechless. Boss, aren't you being a little too humble? Lang Mang, King and Butcher were startled when they saw Lin Yan. Sun Xuan had just said that he wanted to go out for a stroll. Perhaps he would run into his master. Who would have thought that this kid would actually bring his master over? Fortunately, the three of them were much more composed than Sun Xuan. They didn't react much, but they couldn't help glancing at Lin Yan. Goddess, why do I feel like all the big shots are looking at you? Mo Shuyun murmured. Lin Yan rolled her eyes at him. I'm the only girl. If you don't look at me, are you going to look at the two of you? Mo Shuyun was speechless. It didn't seem to be a problem. However, he still felt that the big shots were looking at him strangely. They didn't look like they were looking at a beautiful woman. Instead, they looked like they were looking at their own mother. At this moment, WZ's team manager, Luzern, walked over with a notebook and a testing device in his hands. He wanted to talk to Lang Mang and the rest, but he frowned when he saw a group of strangers. Luzern, these people are? Sun Xuan hurriedly explained, oh, they are the racers of the Aurora team. Their venue was snatched away, so I invited them to train with us. Luzern's face fell when he heard this. He pulled Sun Xuan to a corner and lectured him sternly, nonsense. Who told you to invite a team that you don't know? End of this chapter. Chapter 14-16. Why can't I? Anyway, the venue is huge. Sun Xuan replied nonchalantly. Luzern, who was used to Sun Xuan's unreliability, suppressed his anger and said, is this a matter of size? Not to mention other teams, even unrelated people were not allowed to appear during training. Moreover, this team is also a team that has entered the first level of the international competition. Are you out of your mind to let them train together at the venue we have booked? Sun Xuan raised an eyebrow. What's wrong, brother Luzern? Are you afraid that they will steal your skills? Luzern was infuriated by Sun Xuan's nonchalant attitude. What do you think? Don't you know that the training is confidential? Is this your first day of training? Sun Xuan blinked innocently. Of course I know. I'm not stupid. However, the Aurora team wouldn't steal my skills. What's wrong with that? Luzern swore that if he hadn't had to let this lad participate in the competition, he would have fought him. How do you know that they wouldn't steal your skills? Don't you know that there are many cases of people trying to pry for information before the competition? I spent so much effort to set up a safe place, but you just brought the thief back to your house. Sun Xuan tugged at Luzern's sleeve and whined, brother, what thief? It's impossible. Anyone could have done it, but not the person I invited. Luzern was exasperated. You rascal, the manager was about to explode in anger. Just as he was about to explode, he caught sight of something out of the corner of his eye. His words were stuck in his throat. What had he seen? Luzern inadvertently saw an extremely familiar figure in the Aurora motorcade. The girl had been talking to Mo Shuyun when she sensed that someone was looking at her. Instinctively, she turned her head in that direction. A second later, the girl's eyes met Luzern's. Luzern couldn't believe his eyes. What? Yeva. Sun Xuan realized that Lu Sen had finally discovered Lin Yan. He hastily covered his mouth before he could scream. Brother Sen, keep your voice down. I promised Master that I would keep it a secret. Luzern's eyes widened. Is that really Yeva? Although the girl had changed a lot and looked even more beautiful, they had worked together for so many years. It was impossible for him not to recognize Yeva. Sun Xuan said proudly, yes. Luzern was still in disbelief. Why is Yeva in the Aurora team? Sun Xuan quipped, she's a racer for Aurora. She's the champion of the third and second level of the international competition. Her name is Lin Yan. Lu Sen's face was full of shock. What did you say? Lin Yan. Lin Yan is Yeva. Sun Xuan nodded. That's right. Luzern looked dazed. No wonder. No wonder I found this female racer's style familiar when I watched the replay of the video. I thought that she was another person imitating Yeva. Who would have thought that it was Yeva herself? Lin Yan was a celebrity in the country. She didn't want to attract too much attention and affect the competition, so she rarely showed her face during the competition. She also didn't accept interviews from the media, so he hadn't noticed her at all. Sun Xuan pursed his lips. Brother Luzern, don't worry now. Our master is right in front of us. Why would they steal our master's skills? Even if they wanted to steal, it would be us who wanted to steal our master back. Chapter 14-17. Luzern was speechless. Luzern couldn't refute Sun Xuan's words. The 4 top racers of WZ had been taught by Lin Yan. Anyone could have learned from them except for her. She was the teacher. You rascal. Why didn't you say so earlier? Luzern was surprised, delighted, and conflicted at the same time. Wait a minute. Since Yeva has returned to the competition, why didn't she return to WZ? Why did she join a small team in the country? Sun Xuan sighed heavily. Master must have been disappointed by what happened in the past. She didn't want to implicate us. Previously, Lin Yan had been in the limelight. She had almost toppled the Go Empire, which had ruled the racing industry for years. How could those people let go of the fact that she had used a banned drug? Besides, when Master found out that she had been drugged, he had been afraid that she would never race again. Fortunately, Master had returned to the competition in the end. Sun Xuan gazed longingly at her. Polar Light is Master's team. I also want to join Master's team, sob sob sob. Luzern was so angry that he almost choked. You rascal. I will break your legs if you run away. Sun Xuan replied, I want to be with Master. Then think of a way to get her back. Money is easy to talk about. Luzern secretly urged. Sun Xuan mumbled, of course I want to, but how can that be possible? Master has already competed as a racer in the country. Besides, Master is Chinese. She came overseas because she lacked money. Now she doesn't lack money anymore. You have no idea how rich my Master 6 Junior is. Master's new boyfriend is even richer. Luzern stopped thinking. She didn't lack money? Then he wouldn't stand a chance. All right. I'm going to greet her. Luzern adjusted his clothes hastily. Sun Xuan reminded him softly, behave normally. Don't let anyone see through you. I promised Master that she would keep her identity a secret. Do I need you to teach me that? Luzern rolled his eyes at him and strode in Lin Yan's direction. Luzern looked composed and his footsteps were steady. However, he had only taken a few steps when he stumbled and almost stepped on his right foot. What? Miss Lin Yan, hello. I'm the manager of the WZ team, Lucen Garcia. Lucen greeted Lin Yan in fluent Mandarin. Lin Yan smiled when she saw him. Hello, Mr. Garcia. I've heard a lot about you. Lucen said, Miss Lin Xuan told me just now that you can use this venue as you wish. You don't have to be polite. If you need anything, you can look for me anytime. When Zhou Yu and the others saw that not only did Lucen not object, but he was even so enthusiastic, they were slightly surprised. How is this passion? This is almost flattery, right? Is he really the manager of the WZ team? He's too approachable. It's him. I saw him on TV. Mo Shuyun, who was standing by the side, said, Isn't this too much of a disturbance? Lucen hurriedly said, No, what's there to disturb? It's an honor. Mo Shuyun was speechless. If the manager of a small team had said that, it would have been understandable. However, given the status of the WZ team, there was something wrong with his words. End of this chapter. Chapter 14-18. Mo Shuyun was still worried that there would be a conflict, so he decided to be straightforward. I'm really sorry. Our venue was occupied. I didn't expect Mr. Sun Xuan to invite us over. However, I just found out that the WZ team is the one who booked the venue. I know the rules. If it's not convenient for you, we can find another venue. When Luzern heard this, he hurriedly vowed, Oh, about that. Captain Mo, don't worry. We will definitely not steal the Aurora team's tactics. We still have this bit of professionalism. Mo Shuyun was speechless. Huh? Mo Shuyun was beginning to suspect that there was something wrong with his way of communicating. Or perhaps, there was something wrong with his ability to understand. He was clearly afraid that the WZ team would mind revealing their tactics. They were a new team that was participating in the international competition for the first time this year. Why would they be afraid of revealing their tactics in front of a top team? If Luzerne hadn't sounded so sincere, he would have suspected that he was mocking them. Lin Yin listened to their conversation with a gloomy face. She rubbed her forehead speechlessly. If Luzerne went on like this, he would lose all his facade. Sun Xuan couldn't stand it anymore. He leaned over to Luzerne and whispered, "Didn't I tell you to be more normal?" Luzerne replied, "What's wrong with me?" Sun Xuan replied, "What's wrong with you?" Sun Xuan was about to teach Lu Sen a lesson when he saw Butcher stride over to Lin Yin. "Miss Lin, can I have a match with you?" Butcher asked without hesitation. It was simple and violent. Butcher was a crazy racer and a simple-minded person. He loved to compete with others, so he must have endured it for a long time. Now that he had seen Lin Yin, he couldn't hold it in any longer. F***CK. Third brother, why are you so immoral? Sun Xuan was so furious that he almost jumped up when he saw Butcher running over to challenge his coach. Sun Xuan, who couldn't care less, dashed over immediately. "Me too." King strode over leisurely. "Me too." As the boss, Lang Mang wanted to stop Butcher and Sun Xuan, but he did not expect K to be so shameless. He hurriedly followed Butcher and Sun Xuan, afraid that he would be left behind. "Me too." Lin Yin was speechless. "If you're tired, then destroy yourself." The members of the Aurora team? Sister Yin had been challenged by all 4 WZ teams at the same time? Were they dreaming? Lin Yin stared at the 4 traitorous disciples in front of her as she pondered how to deal with them. Suddenly, someone dashed towards them with a bag in his hand. "Is that Michaud?" When the members of the Aurora team saw Michaud, they immediately became nervous. After all, Michaud had lost to Lin Yin and Yun Xian during the second level of the international competition. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. With Michaud's fiery temper, would they start a fight? Great-grandfather. While everyone was worried, they heard Michaud's crisp voice as he skipped over to Lin Yin. Lin Yin was speechless. Was it too late to dig a hole and bury herself? The members of the Aurora team? Great-grandfather? Why had Michaud called Lin Yin great-grandfather? They were indeed dreaming. End of the chapter. Chapter 14-19. Lin Yin gritted her teeth and forced a smile on her face as she explained, "After the competition, I met Michaud and had a competition. I made a bet with him that whoever lost would have to call the other party grandfather." Michaud, who wasn't bothered by the fact that so many people were watching, smiled brightly at Lin Yin. "Yeah, my great-grandfather was right. Great-grandfather, I bought some drinks. What would you like to drink?" Lin Yin replied, "Ahem. Thank you. Mineral water will do." "Mineral water? I didn't buy any water." "Great-grandfather, wait for me, I'll go buy it for you right now," Michaud said as he ran away again. His steps were very cheerful. Lin Yin was speechless. Aurora's team members? Michaud had gone to buy water for Sister Yin. Had he lost his mind? Michaud lost the bet and was forced to do this? However, wasn't his pace a little too cheerful? What happened to fighting? Why was this scene even more horrifying than a fight? Emo Shuyun turned to look at Lin Yin. "Goddess, when did you make the bet with Michaud?" "Zhou Yu and the others? Yeah, when did you make that bet with Michaud?" Lin Yin coughed softly. "On the night of the second level, I was taking Yun Xian to train. We bumped into each other." "Emo Shuyun, he lost again? That's why I call you Grandpa?" "That's not right. Grandpa is Grandpa. Why great-grandpa? Did he just call you great-grandfather?" "Zhou Yu and the others? Yeah, why great-grandfather?" Lin Yin replied innocently, "Who knows? Maybe it's because I can't pronounce it properly." "What's wrong?" Emo Shuyun shook his head. "It's nothing. I just feel like he's calling you great-grandfather a little too sincerely. If I didn't know better, I might actually think that you're his grandfather. Zhou Yu and the others? That's a little too sincere." Lin Yin was speechless. Emo Shuyun seemed to have found a reason for Lang Mang and the others' actions. "I know. No wonder the 4 gods want to challenge you. Are they trying to get back at their disciple?" Lin Yin glanced at her captain in approval. "Yeah. You're right, it must be so." Emo Shuyun glared at the 4 of them. "Goddess, what should we do? Aren't we courting death by competing with them?" "Zhou Yu and the others. That's right, isn't he just courting death?" Lin Yin glanced at Zhou Yu and the others speechlessly. "Are you guys a recorder?" Zhou Yu coughed. Sister Yin, you're too excited." Just as Zhou Yu and the others were panicking, Lin Yin scanned the four traitorous disciples with a cold, sharp gaze. Did they have a death wish? Noticing his master's warning gaze, Butcher's body instantly stiffened. No, I won't compete. I still have things to do. King said, I have something to do too. Lang Mang, I have something to do too. Sun Xuan didn't expect them to be so cowardly. He immediately shouted, I don't want it either. I don't want it. I almost forgot that I have a bad cold and can't exercise vigorously. Lin Yin was rendered speechless. Her eyes darted around as she seemed to have thought of something. Suddenly her attitude changed. She coughed softly and said humbly, I didn't expect that you guys would be willing to compete with a small team like ours. It's a rare opportunity, so of course, we're honored to be able to do so. Since that's the case, I'll do as you say. Gods, please be lenient. He had been worried about finding a suitable opponent for Yun Xian and the others to train with. It would be a waste not to take advantage of this free opportunity. Good night, the update is over, smooches, end of this chapter. Chapter 1420. Initially, Lin Yin and Mo Shuyun had wanted to train with Thunderous Sound and Lightspeed. However, looking at Thunderous Sound and Lightspeed's attitude, it was obvious that they were excluded. They definitely wouldn't train with Polar Light, so why not use the WZ team as practice for Yun Xian and the rest? This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Usually, the WZ team would offer at least 7 figures for an exchange race. Zhou Yu and the others felt that something was amiss when they heard Lin Yan's words. Hold on, Sister Yan. Are you saying that all of us should go together? Weren't they supposed to challenge Sister Yan? Why did he bring them along as well? Lin Yan nodded. Yeah. Since we're already here, let's have some fun together. No problem. Butcher replied eagerly. Lang Mang and the others had no objections. After all, their only goal was to compete with their master. It didn't matter if a few more people joined them. Zhou Yu, Jing Shiran, and Xiao Haiqing felt as though they had been struck by lightning. Mo Shuyun's expression turned ugly as well. Mo Shuyun coughed softly and whispered in Lin Yan's ear, Goddess, the few of us. Let's forget about it. This is akin to courting death in front of the final boss of a newbie village. Zhou Yu and the others nodded. Yeah, Sister Yan. This is too scary. Any one of them could beat them up 100 times, let alone 4 of them. This was a huge blow. Lin Yin glanced at them. What's there to be afraid of? This is a great opportunity. Do you know how much the WZ team pays to participate in a competition? We can earn more if we compete. Cut the crap. Let's go together. Zhou Yu, Jing Shiran, Xiao Haiqing, and Mo Shuyun were speechless. Lin Yin glanced at Yun Xian. Yun Xian, what about you? Yun Xian was clearly nervous, but his eyes were filled with excitement. Master, I can do it. Yun Xian could tell that his master hadn't wanted to agree initially. After all, it would be better if fewer people knew about her identity before the competition. However, his master had suddenly agreed because she wanted to give them a chance to compete. He couldn't disappoint her. Lin Yin grinned in satisfaction. Okay, let's do it together then. Yun Xian was the type of person who would grow stronger when faced with strong opponents. At the moment, the racers in the country could no longer satisfy his training needs. This training session was a very good opportunity for him. Although the gap between Zhou Yu and the others was quite large, this was a rare opportunity for them to learn from each other. At the very least, it would allow them to know the level of their future opponents. Zhou Yu muttered softly to Jing Shiran, no wonder he became Sister Yan's disciple. He is indeed extraordinary. Mo Shuyun gritted his teeth. As the team leader, he couldn't back down. He could only bite the bullet and say, okay, let's go together. However, as the captain, Mo Shuyun had to consider more. He was worried that Luzerne would mind. After all, they had indeed taken advantage of the WZ team. Mo Shuyun was a little embarrassed as he asked, Mr. Garcia, do you think the rest of us can go up together? Of course, if it's not convenient. Luzerne immediately shook Missouri Shuyun's hand enthusiastically. Oh, my dear Captain Mo, of course it's an honor. I was just worried that I didn't have a suitable opponent to compete with. You've really helped me a lot. Please don't stand on ceremony. Mo Shuyun was speechless. Did he mean that the Aurora team was a suitable opponent? Are you King serious? Mo Shuyun felt as though he was being mocked. End of this chapter. Chapter 1421. Lin Yin told Mo Shuyun regretfully, it's a loss. Qi Feng applied for leave and didn't come today. The corners of Mo Shuyun's mouth twitched. Goddess, that's enough. I think we have already earned 100 million. This was the first time Luzerne had found Sun Schwerin pleasing to the eye. Rascal, you're smart this time. You've done us a huge favor. How could Luzerne not be happy? Yeva had personally trained with the team. This was something that couldn't be exchanged for. After all, there were too few teams that could compete with WZ. There were only one or two. One was the GD team that dominated the summit, and the other was the veteran team, Falcon. These two teams were competitors and they were wary of each other. It was impossible for them to train together. Sun Schwerin looked smug. Of course. Since when am I not smart? Soon, all the cars were in position, including Michaud, who had rushed over after buying water. WZ's car was silver, while Aurora's car was red. The moment the gun was fired, all the cars sped away from the starting point and transformed into streaks of silver and red light. They couldn't see the gap between them in a straight line, but the gap between them widened at the first turn, the second turn, and the third turn. Zhou Yu, Zheng Xiran, and Xiao Haiqing watched as the cars got further and further away. In the end, they could only see the exhaust fumes of the cars. Sob, 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 this is too cruel. In the future, they could brag about how they had been defeated by the four gods on the track. Now that they thought about it, they felt that it was worth it. Mo Shuyun could vaguely see the rear of Michaud's car. However, after a turn he was left behind. So this was the gap between them and the top racers. After he had made it to the first level of the international competition, he had been smug about it. This level of skill was nothing compared to the top racers. He wondered how Lin Yan and Yun Xian were doing. Michaud and Yun Xian were chasing after them. The competition was intense. After a turn, Yun Xian overtook Michaud once again and sped up to catch up with Sun Schwerin. Sun Schwerin noticed that Michaud had turned into Yun Xian. He felt as though he was facing a formidable enemy. *CK. It would be embarrassing if he lost to junior brother. Just as Sun Schwerin was holding his breath, intending to stop Yun Xian no matter what, Yun Xian's car overtook him at an almost impossible angle, right at the edge of the bend. He was overtaken. Holy shit. Sun Schwerin was heartbroken at that moment. Albert entered the turn at such a high speed? Wasn't that Master's ultimate technique? They hadn't even had the time to learn. But little junior brother had already learned it? He wanted to cry for 3 days and 3 nights. Master, you're biased. Lin Yan could sense that her disciples had improved by leaps and bounds in the past few years. The distance between her and them was getting shorter and shorter, and Butcher was sticking to her relentlessly. This time, Lin Yan finally felt like a real competition. The roar of the car engine resounded through the stadium. The red car roared and accelerated forward as if it was shouting, "Come on. Whoever loosens their grip on the accelerator is a dog." As Lin Yan activated the hell mode, the silver car followed closely behind her. Its tires scraped against the ground, sending sparks flying everywhere. She wished she had wings on her car. *CK. Master, don't be like this. We haven't seen each other for 3 years. Can't you be more gentle? End of chapter. Chapter 1422. The match was over. By the time Mo Shuyun and the others reached the finish line, Lin Yan had already gotten out of the car. How is it? Are you all right? Mo Shuyun and the others asked with concern. Sun Schwerin wailed indignantly, it's too miserable. It's too miserable. Simply inhumane. Mo Shuyun looked as though he had expected this to happen. He scurried over to Lin Yan and Yun Xian and comforted them. It's okay, goddess. Don't be too discouraged. After all, the other party is WZ. It's inevitable that you will be tortured. Lin Yan was speechless. Who said that she had been tortured? Lang Mang, King, Butcher, and Sun Schwerin? Brother, there's something wrong with your ability to understand. The one being abused isn't your goddess, it's us. However, even though they were being abused miserably, everyone's eyes were shining with unprecedented light. Lu Sun, who was at the side, was overjoyed when he saw these brats who were usually arrogant being abused. He quickly ran over to make an appointment for the next round. Why don't we have a few more rounds? Mo Shuyun was horrified. Again? Hadn't he tortured them enough? Was he determined to help Michaud get back at him? That was too ruthless. Sure. Lin Yan shrugged nonchalantly. Zhou Yu and the others didn't dare to step forward anymore. They hurriedly waved their hands. Sister Yan, I don't think we can go together. Let's go to the track next door. They had already felt what it felt like to be hit by a dimensional reduction. They had already seen the world, so they didn't need to be abused anymore. Just as Mo Shuyun was about to speak, his phone rang. He immediately looked as if he had been saved. Oh my goddess, I have to take a call. You guys go ahead. Don't worry about me. With that, Mo Shuyun slipped away. In the lounge, Mo Shuyun looked at the caller ID on his phone screen with a complicated expression. KNT team manager Xiaoyu. Back then, Xiaoyu had personally removed his name from the team, and they had never contacted each other again. Why would he call him now? Mo Shuyun lit a cigarette and answered the call. Hello. Hey Shuyun. We haven't talked for a long time. How have you been? Xiaoyu's cordial voice came from the other end of the phone. It was completely different from his previous sarcastic attitude. Mo Shuyun furrowed his brows. Is something the matter, Manager Xiao? Hehe, I do have something to do. Are you busy now? Let's find a place to have a meal together? My treat. Xiaoyu invited. I'm pretty busy. I'm training with my teammates. Let's talk over the phone, Mo Shuyun said. Hey, I know that Captain Mo is a busy person now, but you still have time to have a meal. After all, you came from my KNT team. Aren't you going to give Brother Xiao face? Xiaoyu's tone sounded a little unhappy. Mo Shuyun's lips curled into a cold smile. Back then, he had erased all of his achievements, and even forced him to be removed from the team. But now it seemed like he had been given a huge favor. Manager Xiao, there's no point in saying this now. How did you treat me in the past? Have you forgotten it so quickly? If you have something to say, just say it. I don't have time to beat around the bush with you, Mo Shuyun said bluntly. He didn't want to waste any more time with him. Xiaoyu was silent for a while, but then he said in an incomparably flattering tone, Oh Shuyun, look at you. It was so long ago, but you still remember it. I had no choice back then. You also know that he has a bit of a background, so everyone had to support him. Who knew that he was such a weakling? Good night, the update is over. Smooch, end of this chapter. Chapter 1423. Xiaoyu quipped, Shuyun, you're the best. Not only did you make it to the international level, but you also made it to the first level. Your future is limitless, Mo Shuyun quipped. Are you done? Xiaoyu was afraid that Mo Shuyun would hang up the phone impatiently, so he got straight to the point. Hey, I'll be straightforward then. Shuyun, no matter how good the cars outside are, they're still outsiders. It's not as good as home. If you're working for an outsider, why don't you return to KNT? I can promise you that we will give you all the resources to ensure that you make it to the first level of the international level. You don't have to worry about money. Just name the price. We will pay for the transfer fee and compensation. Mo Shuyun sneered coldly. So they were here to poach him. Back then they had belittled him and chased him away like a piece of trash. Now that he had made it to the first level of the international level, they were trying to use him to boost KNT's reputation. Outsiders? Other than the Aurora team, everyone else was an outsider to him. Only the Aurora team was his home. He could betray anyone in this life but not his goddess. You want to poach me? Brother Xiao, what price are you offering? Mo Shuyun chuckled softly. When Xiaoyu heard that there was hope, he immediately said, 5 million a year. How about it? Is this price sincere enough? Mo Shuyun sneered. Add another 2 zeros and I will consider it. What? 500 million? Are you kidding me? Xiaoyu was fuming with rage. He had chased Mo Shuyun away because he had realized that he was no longer of any use to him. Who would have thought that in less than a year this lad would jump to the first level of the international level? He had been scolded by his boss. Now he had no choice but to lower his head and spend a huge sum of money to hire him. In the end, Mo Shuyun had played him like a monkey. Mo Shuyun ignored Xiaoyu, who was fuming with rage. He hung up and extinguished the cigarette in his hand. Sun Xuan hugged Lin Yin and cried when he saw that Mo Shuyun and Zhou Yu had left. He and Yun Xian had almost reached the finish line at the same time and had almost lost. Coach, how could you do this to me? You're so biased that there's no end to it. Albert sped into the corner. I want to learn too. Sun Xuan tugged at Lin Yan's sleeves and began to sway. Lin Yin replied, You can't learn it? Sun Xuan, why? Lin Yin replied, This method isn't suitable for you guys. Otherwise I would have taught you. Sun Xuan said, Master, you're lying? Lin Yin was speechless. Why would I lie to you? You know how to do it too, but I didn't teach Yun Xian anything. Don't you know how to teach according to his aptitude? Are you the master or am I? After dealing with Sun Xuan, Luzern ran over. Lu Sin rubbed his hands with an eager expression. Hee darling, there's something I want to talk to you about. Lin Yin could tell what he was thinking just by looking at his expression. Brother Sin were already so familiar with each other. I know what you're trying to say. There's no need for that. I'm doing fine with the Aurora team now. Lang Mang and the others are already leading their own teams. It doesn't matter whether I come back or not. Luzerne was so anxious that he stomped his feet. Why wasn't it affected? This would determine who would be the champion of the tournament of the Apex. Initially, he had been worried that Yeva had not participated in international competitions in recent years and that her skills had deteriorated. However, after the competition, his worries had been dispelled. Chapter 14:24. Luzerne pressed on. Darling, don't be so heartless. Are you sure you don't want to reconsider? As you know, WZ can provide you with better support than Hua Nation. Lin Yin grinned and shrugged. I understand, but I'm still Chinese. Luzerne knew that there was nothing he could do after hearing Lin Yan's words. He sighed helplessly. Sigh. Lin Yin wanted to say something, but she fell silent again. After some hesitation, she asked, How has Master been all these years? After she had withdrawn from the competition, she hadn't known how to face her master. She hadn't dared to contact him all these years. Luther replied, Don't worry, he's doing well. It's just that his health isn't as good as before. He rarely interferes with the team. Although he doesn't say anything, he still can't calm down. After all, we could have won the championship back then. Lin Yin pursed her lips, looking solemn. Master and the boss of the GD team had been rivals for a lifetime. Lin Yin could have fulfilled his wish and stood at the top of the competition. However, she had fallen midway. Why couldn't she calm down? At Cloud Manor, after Lin Yin left, Pei Yuqing began to work in the study. Pei Qian and Pei Li exchanged a glance before they entered Pei Yuqing's study. Pei Yuqing raised his head from the pile of documents and saw the two kids sitting on one side of the sofa. Given his two sons' personalities, they would never want to be in the same space as him when Lin Yin wasn't around. According to normal circumstances, the two of them should be fighting now that Lin Yin wasn't around. Pei Yuqing put down the documents in his hands, thinking that they had something to say. What's the matter? Pei Li sat upright. Nothing. I want to sit here. Pei Qian swung his short legs. I'm fine too. I want to sit here too. Pei Yuqing was speechless. Pei Yuqing fell silent for a moment before he said, If you're bored, you can ask Xing Qin to take you out to play. Xing Qin, who was standing by the door, was speechless. He wanted him to take the two little devils out to play? Was he going to take them out to play or be played by them? Brother, you please spare me. Pei Li was expressionless. It's fine here. It's fine. Pei Qian snorted. It's fine here. Pei Yuqing was speechless. Pei Yuqing didn't know what his sons were up to, but he didn't pay much attention to them. If they wanted to stay here, so be it. Pei Yuqing was working at his desk while Pei Li was meditating on the couch. Pei Qian was wandering around the study, flipping through the books. 2 hours passed quickly and a beeping sound rang out. Pei Li's alarm had rung. Pei Li immediately opened his eyes and looked at his father, who was immersed in his work. Uncle, it's time. You should rest. Pei Qian immediately said, Uncle, it's time for you to rest. Pei Yuqing replied without looking up, Later? His tone was extremely perfunctory, and it was obvious that he did not take their words seriously. Pei Li frowned. It's break time now. You must rest for 10 minutes before you can continue working. It's best if you take a walk outside. Pei Qian, you have to rest for 10 minutes or take a stroll. Pei Yuqing finally raised his head and glanced at his eldest son and his youngest son. He was amused. Are you guys worried about me? End of chapter. Chapter 14:25. Pei Li's expression changed instantly. Don't flatter yourself. I don't care about you. Pei Qian replied, Don't flatter yourself. Who cares about you? Pei Yuqing adjusted his glasses. Let's go out and play then. The two little fellows hadn't expected that they would fail to complete their mother's task. Hence they didn't look too pleased. After a moment of silence, Pei Li whipped his phone out of his pocket and dialed his mother's number. He turned on the speaker. Lin Yan's voice came through the phone. Hello, baby? Pei Yuqing stiffened when he heard her voice. Pei Li replied, Sister? Pei Qian replied, Mommy? Pei Li replied, According to your schedule, Uncle should be resting and going out for a walk. Pei Qian replied, But Uncle is still working. The two little guys cooperated with each other and reported the case to the police. Pei Yuqing was speechless. He hadn't expected that the two little fellows would give him a taste of his own medicine. His expression was indescribable. Lin Yin was enraged when she heard him. What did you say? You lied to me again. Pass the phone to him. Pei Yuqing looked helpless as he pinched his temples. He removed his glasses and took the phone from his son. Xiaoyan, Lin Yan replied, Pei Yuqing. What did you promise me? So when I wasn't around, you didn't take a good rest like I said? Pei Yuqing replied, ahem. No, I just forgot. I'll go now. Lin Yan replied, turn on the video call. I'll watch you rest. Pei Yuqing replied, okay. Xing Chen and Cheng Yimou, who were standing by the door, looked at each other with sympathy. They seemed to have learned some life-saving skills. Hence, the two little fellows escorted their father for a walk. They insisted on walking for 10 minutes without missing a second. Could be said that he was very responsible. Pei Li ended the video call when they were done. Is that enough? Pei Yuqing glanced at his sons. Pei Li glanced at the time on his phone. You still have an hour to work. It's dinner time in an hour. Don't forget. Pei Chen replied, don't forget? Pei Yuqing replied, thank you for reminding me. Pei Chen glared at Pei Li angrily. Why do you keep interrupting me? Pei Li glanced at his brother and ignored him. Pei Chen, who had been ignored, was about to speak when he suddenly saw the phone in Pei Li's hand and the little crab hanging on it. He had just realized that Pei Yuqing's phone had a similar crab-shaped accessory. Moreover, Pei Li seemed to cherish this little crab very much. Pei Li sensed Pei Chen's gaze and stuffed his phone into his pocket. He asked warily, what are you looking at? Pei Chen snorted and stared at the colorful phone and the silly little crab. He said in disdain, what? Are you afraid that I'll snatch them? To actually use such a thing, how childish. Pei Li touched his phone and the little crab pendant and said slowly, these are from my mom. Pei Li's eyes widened. What? Mommy gave it to him. No wonder she was so cute. Meh. That's right. Yes. Pei Li seemed to notice the killing intent in Pei Chen's eyes. He narrowed his eyes and said, if you want to fight, I'll keep you company. Pei Chen clenched his fists and tried to calm himself down. No. He couldn't fight. I can't beat him. Good morning, the update is over, moi, end of chapter. Chapter 1426. Pei Chen snorted coldly. Fight. All you know is to fight. Do you think I'm a violent maniac like you? Xing Chen and Cheng Yimou were speechless. Don't doubt me. You guys are the same. The rest of the time passed peacefully. Xing Chen and Cheng Yimou were extremely grateful for the lady boss's wisdom. She had managed to subdue the three villains with just a few words. In the study, Pei Chen was so bored that his eyes lit up. A second later, he pricked up his ears and vanished like a bolt of lightning. Mommy, Lin Yan had just gotten out of the car when Pei Chen pounced on her and hugged her thighs. He began to cry. What? Mommy? He cried like a pear blossom in the rain. Lin Yan was dumbfounded by the little fellow's crying. Chen, what happened? Who bullied you? Pei Chen sobbed and sobbed as beads of tears rolled down his cheeks, drenching Lin Yan's pants. What's going on? Lin Yan glanced at Pei Yuqing and Pei Chen and asked, did someone bully Chen? Pei Yuqing replied, no. Pei Li replied, no. Pei Chen's eyes widened as he stared at Pei Li and Pei Yuqing's phones. There was a crab hanging on each of their phones and they cried even louder. What? Yes. They bullied Chen. Lin Yan coaxed him and asked, huh? Did brother Xiaoli and uncle bully you? Lin Yan didn't think that was possible, but the little fellow didn't want to lie. How did they bully you? Asked Lin Yan. Pei Chen was about to answer when he realized that there was an identical one hanging on Lin Yan's phone. He had stirred up a hornet's nest. Pei Chen was like Meng Jiangnu crying. Crap. Wah, Lin Yan was stunned. Crap. What crap? Alright Chen, don't cry. Tell me. Pei Chen was heartbroken as he pointed at the crab hanging on Lin Yan's phone. Brother Xiaoli, uncle and mommy have it too. I don't have it. There. The corners of Lin Yan's mouth twitched. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Just because of this? It's just a small pendant. I have another one. Shall I give it to you later? Stop crying. Pei Chen's eyes sparkled as he hugged Lin Yan's leg and raised his head. Really? Did mommy give it to me? Of course it's true. Why would I lie to you? Lin Yan realized that she had been led astray by Pei Chen. She had called herself mom, but she didn't bother to correct herself. Pei Chen obviously realized this and was overjoyed. His crying immediately stopped. Lin Yan added, oh yeah, I'll buy you a phone too. You can call me if you need anything. Thank you, Mom. Mommy is the best. Pei Chen hugged his thigh as he glanced at his brother. Did you see that? Learn it. Fight, all you know is to fight all day long. Just by looking at Pei Qian's expression, Pei Li knew what he was thinking. He only gave him a look of disdain. After coaxing Pei Qian, Lin Yan texted Xiao Yao. She immediately sent the link to purchase the children's phone of the same model as Pei Li's. Xiao Yao? When Xiao Yao received Lin Yan's message, he clicked on it and saw that it was a payment link. Hence he replied with a question mark. Lin Yan typed, I bought a children's phone for Qian Qian. Reimburse me. You don't have to pay for the pendant either. Consider it a discount. Xiao Yao was speechless. Her son had bought a phone, but she wanted him to reimburse her? Whose son was he? Lin Yan typed, what's wrong? You have to take responsibility for the trouble you caused. Xiao Yao was speechless. He felt that the child's father should be responsible. End of this chapter. Chapter 1427. Late at night, Pei Qian opened his eyes eagerly. He craned his neck to show off to his brother, who was sleeping on the other side of his mother. Stop pretending. Wake up. Are you convinced? The little guy's eyes sparkled brightly in the dark. Pei Li opened his eyes and replied expressionlessly, why would I be convinced? Did you cry enough? Pei Qian ignored Pei Li's sarcasm. What's wrong with crying? Why do I have to resort to violence when I can cry? Let me tell you, you can't be like this. You're like a taciturn gourd. You're not cute at all. Mommy won't like such a kid. Pei Li fell silent for a moment. What makes me cute? Pei Qian couldn't help but show off. Then you've asked the right person. For example, when you talk, eat, say eat, sleep, take a nap, take a bath. Repeat words can greatly increase your cuteness. Pei Li looked as though he had wasted his time listening to him. You're like a retard. If his mother hadn't been sleeping in the middle, Pei Qian would have reached out to him. He lowered his voice and said, you're the retard. Pei Li asked, anything else? Pei Qian replied proudly, of course. Being cute is a skill. For example, when you send a message to mommy, don't use a full stop. Instead use a wave. Don't send a smiling emoji. Send a shy emoji. Pei Li asked, what's the difference? Pei Qian shook his head sympathetically. TSK. You don't even know this? You're not cute at all. Pei Li replied, I don't need that. Pei Qian replied proudly, that's why you'll never be able to defeat me and become mommy's favorite child. Pei Li sneered coldly. Mommy's favorite child? You're delusional. Pei Qian flared up and almost lunged at Pei Li. Who are you calling delusional? I am. Pei Li replied, you're not. Pei Qian replied, I am. If I'm not, then are you? Pei Li replied, why not? I am. Pei Qian replied, you might be, so of course I am. Pei Yuqing's temples twitched as he sighed and opened his eyes. He leaned forward to cover Pei Qian and Pei Li with the blanket before he said, if you don't want another competitor, go to sleep. The bodies of the two little fellows immediately stiffened, and they both fell silent. What do you mean by more competitors? Multiple competing children? Was she going to have a second child? Pei Qian was alarmed. You want to have another child with mommy? Pei Li also cast a questioning look at him. Pei Yuqing asked, is there a problem? Pei Li turned his little face and glanced at his father. You're just mom's boyfriend now. Aren't you thinking too far ahead when it comes to giving birth to a child? Pei Qian, that's right, dream on. Pei Li, besides it's just a boyfriend. He can be replaced at any time. Pei Qian, that's right, we can change at any time. Pei Yuqing raised his eyebrows. You'd better hope that I can be re-elected. Pei Li, why should I? Pei Qian, that's right. Why should I? Pei Yuqing replied, if your mother were still with me, we would already have 2 children. Under normal circumstances, there wouldn't be a need to have another child. Even if we had another child, your status wouldn't be affected much. However, if she fell in love with someone else and married that person, there would be a high chance that she would give birth to another child. Based on the principle of loving the house and its crow, she would probably love the child she had with that person more. Pei Yuqing paused for a moment before he added, there's a saying in China that says that a son's status depends on his father. Pei Li was speechless. Pei Qian was speechless. President Pei, does your wife know that you're cheating your son? End of this chapter. Chapter 1428. Lin Yan called the police station after she woke up. Hello, may I know if there is any news about the parents of the boy I brought over the day before yesterday? We've checked the latest missing child reports but there's no news yet. There's still no news? Lin Yan looked doubtful. If a child had gone missing, they would have reported it immediately. Besides, Chen didn't look like an ordinary child. If he had gone missing, there would have been some news. Why hadn't there been any news in 2 days? After hanging up, Lin Yin sent Ling Yu a text message. Lin Yin typed, "Darling, are you free?" Ling Yu typed, "Sister Yin, look for me anytime." Lin Yin typed, "Can you come to Cloud Manor now?" Ling Yu typed, "I'm nearby. I'll be there soon." After she hung up, she glanced at the 2 little fellows who were eating obediently at the dining table. She sighed heavily. If there was no news from the police station, she would try asking Ling Yu. It wouldn't be difficult for her to find Chen's parents. Pei Yuqing, who sensed that something was wrong with Lin Yin, walked over and poured her a glass of milk. "What's wrong?" Lin Yin shook her head. "Nothing. I just called the police station, but there's no news of Chen's parents. That's why I wanted to ask Ling Yu for help. However, I can't bear to part with Chen after he finds his parents." Lin Yin paused and added, "Xiaoli is just taking care of them temporarily. Sooner or later he will leave. I can't bear to part with him." The thought of the 2 kids leaving made Lin Yin feel even more dejected. Pei Yuqing fell silent as though he didn't know what to say. He merely hugged Lin Yin to comfort her. Suddenly the doorbell rang. "It should be Ling Yu. I'll go and take a look." Lin Yin hurried to open the door. Indeed, it was Ling Yu. Xing Chen and Cheng Yimo, who were guarding the door, were puzzled when they saw Ling Yu. "Ling Yu, why are you here? What happened?" Xing Chen asked anxiously. "Sister Yin asked me to come," replied Ling Yu. "Sister Yin asked you to come?" Xing Chen was puzzled. Lin Yin coughed softly. "Ling Yu, sorry for making you come all the way here. I need your help." "What is it?" "Sister Yin, feel free to tell me." "Your problem is my problem," replied Ling Yu readily. "It's not a big deal. Look at the little boy sitting next to Xiaoli in the dining room. Did you see him?" Lin Yin gestured for Ling Yu to look at Chen. Ling Yu followed Lin Yan's gaze. In the next second, Ling Yu was stunned when she saw the little fellow beside Pei Lia. "Oh, wasn't that the little devil Pei Chen?" Ling Yu subconsciously looked at Xing Chen suspiciously. What was going on? She had been out on a mission for the past 2 days and did not know what had happened here. Xing Chen rubbed his nose. "Don't ask me, I don't know anything." Ling Yu coughed softly. "Sister Yin, what do you need my help with?" Lin Yin explained, "His name is Chen. He went missing 2 days ago, so I brought him back temporarily. There hasn't been any news from the police, so I wanted to ask you to help me find his parents." Find his parents? Ling Yu studied Lin Yin intently before she glanced at Pei Yuqing. She was at a loss for words. This was probably the easiest mission she had ever received in her life. End of this chapter. Chapter 1429. This was both the easiest and the most difficult task. She could help this child find his parents immediately, but she didn't dare to say it out loud. Xing Chen stroked his nose, his expression indescribable. "Can I?" Lin Yin pleaded. Ling Yu had no choice but to bite the bullet. I'll try my best." Lin Yin hugged Ling Yu happily. "Thank you so much. I'll treat you to a feast if you find them." Ling Yu coughed softly. There was no need for that. Lin Yin spent the next few days training. There was no news from Ling Yu. Even Ling Yu couldn't find out anything. Weren't Chan's parents Chinese? The doorbell interrupted Lin Yan's thoughts. "Hello. Good evening, Daddy." Pei Yutong's passionate voice rang out as soon as the door was opened. After leaving Pei Yutong, Pei Nanshu followed. Lin Yin hurriedly welcomed him. "Mr. Pei? You're here too. Come in." Pei Nanshu was hugging a bouquet of flowers. "I was filming overseas and just came back. I heard that you won the championship. Congratulations." Lin Yin was elated. "Thank you. It was a gift from her idol. It was worth it to win the international competition." "Daddy. I have one too. Pei Yutong fished out a carnation from his back mysteriously. "Daddy, congratulations." Lin Yin stared at the carnation speechlessly. She was speechless. It was one thing for him to give her a carnation, but there was only one? Lin Yin quipped, "Can you be more stingy?" Pei Yutong rubbed his hands together. "I'm trying to emulate you, Daddy. Besides, I've invested all my money in you. I don't have a single cent on me. This flower is all I have. This is all the love I have for you." Lin Yin chuckled. "Thank you." Lin Yin had just spoken when she heard a childish voice behind her. "Mommy, who is he?" Pei Yutong glanced at the unfamiliar child beside Lin Yin and asked, "Daddy, who is he?" Why was there another child calling Lin Yin mommy? Pei Qian looked wary. Mommy, why is he calling you daddy? Pei Yutong was dumbfounded as well. Daddy, why is he calling you mommy? Lin Yan was speechless. Guys. Enough. Got it? She was about to get dizzy. Pei Nanshu stood by the side looking perplexed. What had happened when he hadn't returned for a few days? After entering the room, Lin Yan expended a great deal of effort to explain the situation to both of them. Qian, daddy doesn't mean daddy. It's also a form of respect. It's a title given to someone who's amazing in a certain field. Lin Yan racked her brains to explain. Only then did the little guy finally feel relieved. It was all Pei Yuqing's fault. He had been so paranoid. This person was already so old, how could he be her son? Pei Yutong's face was still full of shock as he sized up the two kids. Pei Qian and Pei Li were fraternal twins, so they looked different. However, they were born from the same parents, so it was inevitable that there were some similarities between their brows. Pei Yutong felt that something was amiss. Sister-in-law, you must be lying to me. One of them looks like my brother while the other looks like you. Isn't this too much of a coincidence? Could one of them be my brother's illegitimate son and the other is yours? Lin Yan kicked him. Can your imagination get any bigger? Pei Nanshu chuckled softly. Actually, they look more like Big Brother and Miss Lin's children. End of this chapter. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.